There we go.
Dear God, make me the greatest podcaster of all time. Oh, hey, good morning. Didn't see you there.
What's up? What's up?
Just kidding. I was just praying for other people and stuff.
Dude, I knew it. I know that's your morning routine before the
Yes.
podcast.
That
and the exerciser.
Mine's still closed in the box. I have fear. I don't have the humility to open it.
Dude, how did you even connect? Like, how did you get connected with that organization?
They wanted to sponsor the podcast. They wanted to sponsor the CrossFit games, and the CrossFit games, they're very closed-minded.
Yeah.
And so they passed it off to someone else, and they were closed-minded.
Uh-huh.
And I was absolutely like,
we welcome all over here.
Come to me. You FDA approved device that helps blood flow and healing. You are part of the family.
It's basically cupping.
When I was researching it and looking at videos, one of the first things it says don't put your testicles in it. I was like, oh, solid advice.
You'd think it would be self-explanatory, but it's definitely not.
Before I came out, Jared, my son's on the couch this morning, and I said, hey, do you have any advice for me this morning on the podcast? He said, yeah, don't be a dick. My 9-year-old.
Dude, that's awesome. I was gonna say that's actually one of my favorite things whenever you have the boys on. Like, I love how you talk to your kids, because it shows. I mean, so I didn't have a dad growing up, so like getting to see you talk to them with the respect that you give them at their age, I bet it just means so much to them to know their dad actually listens to them, and so I love that.
It's interesting, right? Because I talk to them like adults, but then I also know like, there's things that you don't talk to them about either, right? Like I don't explain stuff to them.
Right.
I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to let them make their own assessments. I'm trying to think of something in particular, but I see other parents like explaining stuff to their kids that I'm like, hey man, your kid doesn't need to understand that now, at all.
What would be like? Yeah, you were saying you were trying to think. I was like, what would be an example of that recently, of something you'd be like, nah, that's not worth explaining right now?
This isn't exactly. Why is my phone ringing? I don't see anyone's calling me.
It's God.
Oh, it probably is.
He's calling.
This isn't a true story, but because I can't think of one, but this is like, it's semi-true. I'm taking like 3 or 4 stories and smashing them into one.
Yeah.
But there was it was kind of like this. We were at the skate park, and there was a man who had boobs and long hair and makeup on, and it was skating around. And my kids were I heard my kids talking about whether it was a boy or a girl or not, like figuring out, like they're completely oblivious to that stuff completely. And I saw the parent next to me was explaining to their daughter what it was. And I'm like, I'm happy with their assessment of it.
Right.
And their assessment of it is like, hey, something like their spidey senses is like, hey, keep your distance.
Right. That's,
you know what I mean? Yeah. That's different. Like, hey, like snakes in the backyard, like some like small snakes, they run. Too big snakes, they're like, whoa. You know what I mean? They have their own assessment.
Yeah.
They're like, don't go in that corner of the yard. That's where the thorns are.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm not like, well, thorns actually are very I don't like.
Right. I feel like sometimes the explanation makes it worse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes it more complex, and then it's like something that's mysterious, and now they got to, it's like, just kind of let it be.
Yeah. Just let it be. Right. Just let it be.
Yeah. I had somebody that actually brought that up to me this week. We were talking at a meeting, and they were asking about that. Like, what if that happens in the church? Somebody comes in, and we're our church is open to everybody. Anybody can walk in. It doesn't matter. We're not going to ever shun anybody away. But they were saying, well, what about the kids? They don't understand. And I'm like, dude, we live in California. You think this is the first time they're seeing this stuff? And I mean, if there's any place that I'd want them to feel like, there's a place of acceptance and a place of grace, it's at least in the church. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think parents sometimes it's not easy, right? You don't always know that line of like, when do I really go in? But I've loved watching you get to talk with your kids, and it's been super inspiring to me to see you as a dad. I think you're a phenomenal father, but your kids are busy, man. I feel like they're involved in every single extracurricular activity possible.
Pretty busy. You know, another example is, like the other day, my kids were, they were, I don't know what they said, but they were basically making some political statement. They were
Mhm.
saying something about Trump versus Kamala, and
Uh-huh.
I could tell that they had obviously gotten that from me. And I don't want them to parrot what I say. I
Right.
don't want them to just be sugar's bad. I want them
Yeah.
to be like, hey, sugar causes inflammation, which is bad
Yep.
for the joints, and you need your joints to be malleable to, like, I don't want them to, like, yeah, I don't want them, the abortion topic's a great one,
Mhm.
right? Like, it was never a conversation for me when I grew up. It was always just like, "Hey, it's women's, reproductive right, and, like, it's the
Right.
government inserting on your body." When I don't wanna do that to my kid. I
Yeah.
want them to be like, "Hey, I heard about this thing, abortion. What is that?" And then I'll be like, "Well, remember, you know how babies grow in women's stomachs?
Yep.
Some people think it belongs to the woman and she has the right to, remove it, and then
Mhm.
some people think that, like, hey, that's killing a baby." And, like, if you, and you guys know, if you kill someone, you're gonna feel bad the rest of your life. You gotta live
Right.
with that. And so there's these 2 opposing views. And I just wanna do that.
Yep. Yeah,
And then
you gotta you wanna teach
if they
them.
wanna ask how I deal with it, I can tell them. But I was just given that if you're against abortion, you're a fucking monster that wants to control
Exactly.
people. And then so it basically kind of cauterizes that critical thinking. I don't wanna do
Right.
that.
It happens I mean, it happens in church, right? It's like
Right,
you were taught what to think, not how to think. And
right.
so you got kids that grew up, this is all I know. I've been in church, my parents are Christian or whatever. And then, they get out of the house and they go to college, and that's the first time they're exposed to a completely opposite worldview of how they were raised, and then their entire belief system falls apart because they weren't taught how to think. They were just taught what to think. And I think that, yeah, you gotta, even at a young age, it's funny, you'll pose some of those questions like what you were just saying, and watching a child process through that, it's almost like, oh wow, you are capable of making more conclusions than some adults I know.
Right, right, right.
Yep.
Right. So this is your book, and
That's my
along
book.
that same line,
Mhm.
I read the first 50 pages of this last night. By the way, completely engrossed.
Oh
I
wow.
was sitting on the couch in the living room. My wife came in there and started hanging out. She said, "Hey, am I bothering you?" And she was doing some stuff in there that was noisy. I'm like, "Oh, I'll go to the kids' room." So I went to the kids' room and just sat in their room, propped up some pillows, and just
Yeah.
read and read and read until my phone called me.
Mhm.
Till my phone rang. Then I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I gotta put you on hold, talk to the homies." But this book teaches you, you don't have to believe in God. You wanna meet God, you could read this
Right.
book, and this book
Right.
will start giving you the tools. "Hey, you need some flour, you need a
Mhm.
bowl, you need this. Okay, let's start the process. You ready?"
Yeah.
Very cool.
I appreciate it, man. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, very, very, very cool. You're a CrossFitter?
Yep.
I knew of you just from just the, kind of just, I just know everything
Yep.
sphere that we
Yeah,
all are in.
how did this connection happen?
Well, so I did you show up to the ranch?
I did. Yep.
Yeah, so then Dave goes, "Hey, there's this guy, Jared Ellis, you should probably meet him."
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, "Okay," and then I was thinking, "Shit, I know that guy, I know that name,"
Yeah.
but I couldn't picture it. And then one time I saw your, profile picture in
Mhm.
the chat, and then I just made the connection right away. Like, I didn't
Right.
even see your name, I just knew because it's a profile picture and you have the pompadour, you have the fucking John Travolta,
It's the,
Saturday Night Fever hair.
I call it the David Beckham meets Pauly D from the Jersey Shore.
Yeah, yeah. And then so I was like, "Oh, I gotta have this guy on.
Yeah.
I gotta have
Yeah.
this guy on."
That's awesome.
I need a reoccurring, you're a pastor? Is that
Yep. Mhm.
pastor?
Yeah.
I need a reoccurring pastor on the show. I need a pastor as a friend.
Dude, I'm here for you, man. I mean, I watch the show all the time, so I'm always in the comments somewhere.
Please don't tell me that. I don't need a pastor knowing. It's bad
Dude,
enough knowing if my
you
sister
gotta
or my
know,
mom are
man. You gotta
watching.
know. I don't expect you to change for nobody, especially for me, man.
Well, thank you. I, it we'll get into God in a second. First,
Yeah.
let's talk about some, worldly shit.
Let's do it.
Tell me how you found CrossFit. And by the way, I
So
really appreciate how you push CrossFit because I was thinking about it must be kind of controversial for
mm,
you to be a man of God, but also a man of the flesh.
yeah.
But like human health is so important right now.
Oh, yeah.
So for you to be um, to be, I mean, for me, you're just being an example. I mean, for people from the outside, they might, what's he doing? Showing off his body, this, that, and this. I'm like, screw that. I mean, like,
Right.
for me, you're just an example. So,
Yeah.
okay. How did you find CrossFit?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up like nipple on a rib skinny. So I was like 115 in college and I had small
For
man
real?
syndrome. Yeah, like you could see all my ribs. I was always that kid. I mean, I was athletic, but I was also like, I was in a band in high school, so I wasn't huge into sports. I started working out in college, putting on some weight
How
and,
tall?
5'7"
Oh,
and a
wow.
half.
Five
I'll hold
seven.
on to that
Okay.
half. Yeah.
5'7", 115. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I have pictures from college. It's scary. I mean, I look like I've got cancer. And so yeah, I started working out and I mean, I've been working out ever since then. And then probably 2019, just pastoring, leading. I just was kind of at that place where I just didn't want to have to come up with my workouts anymore. I just wanted somebody to tell me what to do. And I was, I got married. I started feeling like I'm working out, but I don't feel healthy. I'm downing pre-workout before I go to the gym just to feel something. And I don't feel like my heart is healthy. I started, I don't know. It was a weird thing. I felt like my body was talking to me. And I've always valued health. The Bible values health, body, soul, and spirit. Your body's a temple. And so um, I had visited a couple CrossFit gyms like throughout kind of my fitness journey, and I hated it. They were all douchebags whenever I walked in, and I just felt like I don't want to be in an environment like that. But I visited a gym here in Elk Grove, which is the city that I'm in, and it was like the first CrossFit gym that I went into where the people were incredible, the community was amazing. I didn't feel judged because I mean, I was working out, but I didn't know any of the Olympic lifts and I had no idea how to do any of that stuff. So it was super humiliating walking in and being a guy that works out. It's always like the Globo gym guy that walks in is like, I got this, and I'm dying, throwing up in the middle of the first workout. And so walked in and I just started to fall in love with it because, I'm super competitive. So I love the competition aspect of it. But for the first time, I'm sweating. I feel good. I feel like I'm moving my body. I'm learning. And then I just got addicted to it. And so I've been doing it since 2019. As soon as I got to the gym, I think it was like 3 months. And then that was when the world shut down. So I was doing it at home. I live in Sacramento. So it's, we were shut down for a while. And then yeah, I've been doing it since then, and I'm a junkie. I'm obsessed with it.
Who taught you how to work out originally? Like, I'm guessing when you said you worked out like the rest of us. You went to the gym, you did bench
Yeah,
press, you did some
yeah,
tricep extensions,
yeah.
no squatting, maybe some leg presses.
I did some squats,
You
but
did
I
squat?
try to
Okay.
stay away. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're
No, I had a
horrible.
guy. His name was
Squats are
Mike.
stupid.
Yeah, a
Okay.
guy named Mike. He was
At
my
what gym? A Gold's or a Planet Fitness or
no, it
a
was at my college.
oh,
Yeah,
okay,
just at
yep.
my college. So
So,
I went to
like
a
the
Bible
rec center.
college.
Okay.
Yeah, in Dallas, and so he was like he was yoked, and so he was training me, and so I just learned like strength training, isolation stuff. That's kind of how I got into it. But so CrossFit was completely different from anything that I had experienced before. And the stuff that I knew or that I could do in the gym just didn't seem to translate over. And so it was a while till I finally started to learn, how to do these movements and how to feel comfortable. And now, now I'm doing the greatest training program that's out there, Sentinel, and, doing the compete track every day. And yeah, it's been incredible. I love it.
Do you know, Taylor?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's great,
Yeah.
isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Um,
love Taylor.
um, so when you were in there doing that, you were not doing snatches and cleans. Those were
No,
still foreign. Like, if you heard
no.
squat snatch, you'd have no idea what it was.
I don't even think I knew. Yeah, I don't think I even knew what those movements were. And
Right.
maybe I saw like a video here and there from the,
Like watching
during
the
the
Olympics
Olympics,
or
but I
something.
had no
Yeah.
idea.
Okay. And, the first gym you went into, I wanna go back and get a little more detail on that. Why would you ever go into your first CrossFit gym? Did someone take you into your first one, the ones where you didn't feel at home?
No, I think I just wanted to try something new. And so there was one like near the area I was living in. And so I just figured, they had like a, 3-day free trial. I went in and it was just one of those gyms that was, I think it was, you know how like every box is different, and so like the gym that I'm at now, we've got a lot of competitive athletes, but the majority of the gym is regular people. And so I think the gym that I visited the first time was predominantly competitive CrossFit athletes. And I've also learned like NorCal CrossFit culture is well, I travel a lot. So I've been able to drop into gyms all over the world. And there is something different about the NorCal culture that it just felt like, dude, I don't belong here. I'm not in my league here. And so it just felt weird. Nobody talked to me, and no kind of on ramping, nothing. And it just was not a great experience.
Where's home for you?
Sacramento.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
hey, so do you now take it upon yourself if you're at your gym? So like when I at my kids' jiu-jitsu studios, if a new parent or kid walks in, I take it upon myself to always go, and I don't want to do this, but I go over and introduce myself and I say some nice words about the instructors because
Yeah.
I want the place to thrive and I want them to feel at home.
Oh yeah.
Do you,
So
do you do that if you see someone new come in? Will you go be over and be like, "Hey, what's up?"
100%. I think almost all of us do. So we have like I go to the 3:30. I'm not in
Can
the
you tell me
class,
the
but
name of the gym?
it's CrossFit 916.
Okay, and that's in Sacramento?
Yeah, it's in Elk
Okay,
Grove. It's a
okay.
phenomenal. I mean, if you're in that area, you need to come by. It's an incredible gym. Um, but we've got like a crew, that afternoon crew. We all after the workout, we all just sit and hang out for like an hour. And so if somebody's new, you're gonna get a whole slew of people that are gonna come up to you, and that's the culture of the gym. And it's because the owner of the gym, is that way. He is
Ah,
extremely
ah.
warm. He cares about people. They do the on ramps. And so
He
all the
sets the
members
culture.
follow him.
He's setting the culture.
Yep. Yeah. Souza talks about that, right? Like it has to start at the head. And then the people around you they're just going to replicate that. He didn't have to ask us to do that. People will naturally do that because we see, and we also believe this, in that class, the 3:30 class at 916. I mean, you've got 20-year-olds and you've got literally a guy who's 72 climbing ropes all the way up to the ceiling. And so you've got a whole, wide range of ages and demographics. And we believe in it. We believe in what CrossFit has done for us, what it's done for our health and what it's done for our livelihood. And so when somebody walks in and they're kind of on the fence, we feel responsible. Like, hey, you're going to make it. Just keep pushing through. Give it a couple weeks, and I promise you'll fall in love with this thing.
I think it's okay. I think it's mandatory. I think it's I don't know, since you're here, I'll use this word, righteous for every single owner to look at all the gym members and be like, "Yo, do you want me to be successful?
Right.
Do you want me to get a new minivan? Do you
Yep.
want me able to buy avocados? Do you want me to have a new house? Do
Yep.
you love me?" Well, okay, let me tell you what you can do for me. Every time someone comes in this gym, you can make them feel at home. Anytime
Right.
you have a chance to talk to someone about the greatest thing that's happening in your life, which is your 1 hour at this gym, it's okay to share it. I would
Right.
appreciate it. Do you want me to thrive? I am here. I want you to want me to thrive. I think it's okay. Y
100%.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's okay to, I think it's okay for the gym owners to I don't know if the word is to 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 speak to their flock like that.
Yeah. I
You know what I
mean,
mean? It's like
people that don't understand that probably have never owned any type of business or taken the risk. And so, most of the people in our demographic, either they're they're they have their own businesses, or they just understand the grind. And we know the sacrifices it takes to own that thing. It's not easy
right,
to make
right.
profit. It's most of the time it's like you're break even. And so we want this thing to succeed. We believe in it. There's never oh, what is he driving, or what, like, come on, man. I mean, we want this thing to grow.
Yeah, wouldn't
And
it be
so
great if your owner drove a brand new, Tahoe
be amazing.
and had a four-bedroom house, 2 kids, and a
Yeah.
rental property? Yeah, it'd be awesome.
How is that like, how would that be offensive to me? I
Right.
want the people around me to be succeeding. You know what I mean? And I think it has to do with, whether you've ever been involved in any type of business before. My wife and I, before I met my wife, she was in the corporate world, and then she owned a couple restaurants here
Oh, wow.
in Sacramento. So,
So
and
she knows hardship. Did she own those during COVID?
yeah, and
Oh,
it
shit.
was rough. I
Yeah.
mean, we offloaded it, finally, because it was a massive loss. I mean, it was extremely profitable before COVID. And then, it just so happened that going into COVID, we were already building a second location and the world shut down. And so you've got the main, site that's doing well, but now isn't because there's nobody outside. And then we're building another facility. And so it was rough, and we experienced the losses, um, and so we know what it's like, to have to sacrifice. You put your own money into that. There ain't no, that's your own livelihood, and your name's on the lease. And so when you've had to walk through that, you believe in other people's dreams. You want them to succeed. You do whatever you got to do. And so, plus half my church, well, not half my church, but a lot of my church comes to my gym because I talk about CrossFit in my sermons almost every single Sunday. So you're going to get bombarded with it if you're in my church.
You have a church?
Yeah.
What does that mean? You have a church? Like you
So I
like
planted a church.
1352 Church Street, you have a place
Yeah, yeah.
with like
So
a door and
we
people go
planted a
inside
church
and
about
pray?
7 years ago.
Wow.
Um, so we're almost 8 years old now, here in Elk Grove. And, yeah, so I'm the lead pastor of the church and have a staff. And, um, yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's an incredible church.
Um, I know nothing about, running a church.
Yeah.
So do you have to apply to open a church? Do you have
Uh,
to, like, is there like is there church HQ and then
no.
you pay them an affiliation fee and you
Probably should be. That sounds more like the Catholic Church.
I is it
They
like
run a
Cross
tight ship.
Oh, they okay, so, um, is it li so it's not like CrossFit? It's not like there's a mothership, you pay money to it, and then they have a program, read from these pages today, and
So
it's not
there are things called denominations,
Uh-huh,
like in the Protestant or the Christian church, where like whether you're like, I don't know if you've heard these terms like Baptist or
uh-huh,
Pentecostal, like
mhm,
different, same belief system, just different styles of worship. Those denominations, if you're a part of that, you have to go through a process. But there's
okay,
non-denominational churches, which we are a non-denominational church, which means we don't care if you're Baptist or Pentecostal, like you're more than welcome. Um, that you can, you don't have to, there's no applying or anything like that. I mean, we have like a governing board, a local board in our local body of people. And then we have a governing board outside of that, pastors that, oversee me directly. So my governance and kind of who I am held accountable to. So that's like financial transparency, governance transparency, all of these types of things, making sure that the organization is healthy. But there's no like, yeah, you pay your dues to church HQ and try to figure it out. It's independent. And that's that was the major split between like the Protestant church and the Catholic church. The Catholic church is like, there is one Catholic church, the Roman Catholic church, and you have to go through that. And then, Protestants broke off and was like, hey, that sounds super controlling, super, and so that's kind of the loose history of it.
um, so do you read books on, like, how to run a McDonald's or how to run the perfect paper route? Are
Oh
there
yeah,
books
I
like
went to college I have a degree in it.
on how to run a church?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow, what's that
yeah.
degree called?
So I have a ministry in I'm sorry, I have a degree in practical ministry, and then I
Uh-huh,
have a degree in theology as well. And so, um, they're Bibles, like different universities, Bible colleges, like they all have kind of offer different tracks. Um, but specifically for me, I was trained in practical ministry, so that's like everything from theology to budgeting for a church, running volunteer systems. Our churches, we have about 1,200 people showing up every Sunday, and
wow.
we have a volunteer group of about 300 that are serving every Sunday. And then I have a staff and I have a whole board of leaders. And so you got to have organization, have to know organizational leadership. You got to be able to run a budget. You've got to be able to communicate, and then all the other things that comes with it, like video, graphic design. I didn't have those people on hire, when I first started. It was me and my brother-in-law. And so eventually, now I've got a creative director, I've got producers, I got all these different, staff members, but in the beginning, you just have to figure it out. And so that's kind of how, we developed over time.
How old are you?
34.
Oh, that's how old I was when I found CrossFit.
There you go.
Yeah, 34. That's incredible. And speaking about a leap of faith, that must have been a crazy leap of faith to open a church. When you open a church, do you already have members, or no? You have 0 members, and you open the door and just turn on the neon sign and be like, come meet God.
If you can afford a neon sign. No, so I've been doing ministry since I was 16. So when I share kind of in the book of a little bit of my story. So, I've been in different positions and served in different churches and done different things since then. Like I was a youth pastor for years. I worked at a couple large churches in different places in the country. And so I've had experience in ministry for many years. And before I was pastoring, I was actually teaching as a professor at the Bible college that I went to. So I was teaching youth ministry. And then I was traveling full time as like a conference speaker and preaching at different churches. And then, so who is now my brother-in-law called me, and he was here in Sacramento and was like, hey, group of us, we've been kind of doing this church thing for a while. It's not been succeeding. We'd like to see it grow. Would you ever want to come out here and, be a senior pastor of a church? And I'd visited Sacramento before. I'm originally from New York. And
so you were headhunted. They're like, we like the way this guy talks about God. Let's get him.
If you want to call it that.
Yeah.
But I visited Sacramento, being from New York. Like when I went to Sacramento and they were like, let's go to the city of Sacramento. I was like, what is this place? Especially if you fly in. I mean, I'm sure you've flown in. It's like you fly into.
I know Sacramento intimately. I mean, I'm just 3 hours down the road, but you got to drive through there. I've been there 100 times.
It's like, man, what is this place? So I had no interest in being here. But when I came out here and I met the group that was kind of developing this plan of like wanting to do a church, I just fell in love with the people. I loved what they were doing. They just had a heart for it, and they were passionate. They had a spirit of excellence. And so everything was being done really well. And so, just praying about it, feeling like, okay, is this the next step? I felt like there was a green light. And so, I moved out here in 2017 and the rest is history. And so 7 years later.
And you met this dude's sister and married her. So this dude recruits you to come out.
It's actually a really funny story. So
Please.
I met this guy in Charlotte when we were both on staff at a pretty large church out there. And I hated this dude when I first met him. Like, yeah, I'm the type of guy that I heard this saying, a stranger should stay a stranger. He was like that overly extroverted. Just as soon as he meets you, he kind of assumes like we're buds, and I'm more introverted. So I'm like, and I'm from New York. I'm like, hey dude, like, don't talk to me. He's super happy. And I'm like, nobody's that happy. So I thought this guy was fake. I thought he was, I just didn't want to be around him. And I ended up getting partnered with him at one of the campuses that we were stationed at. And so I remember when I
were you like shit when he's like Jared and John, you're like, not that John. Oh, fuck.
Yep, exactly. And so as soon as I found out that that we were going to work together, I told him, I was like, man, we got to go to coffee. We got to talk through this. And so we talked it out. I was like, I just feel like you're not genuine. And we had a whole conversation.
Wow.
Long story short, we ended up becoming really close. And through that, when I decided to leave that church and he was moving back to Sacramento, he told me, he's like, hey man, I'm going to call you one day and I'm going to ask you to come out to Sacramento. And I thought he was joking. I didn't think it was anything serious. And sure enough, a couple of years later, he called me. And so when I moved out here, I met his sister and we were friends. We had no intention of being anything. And, but over time, just getting to know her, and, we just, we developed a relationship, and she was in the business world, so she had nothing to do with ministry. And eventually, when we got married, she actually felt called to leave that, and so she now works on staff at the church with me. She's a beast. She's incredible, and she oversees all of our outreach. So, we invest heavily into the community. We give a lot back. We do a lot of outreach initiatives, and so she oversees all of that, and she's crushing it. She's amazing.
This morning I was watching your wedding vows video, and I started crying, and my wife goes, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she goes, "How come?" I'm like, "But I had you in my ears." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Is this guy's saying stuff that how I feel about you."
Come on, man.
And then she came over, and I got a great hug off that, saying
How
that.
long have you guys been married?
Oh, not long. Avi was 2 when we got married. He's 9. 7 years.
7 years. Okay.
7
How
years.
did you guys meet?
College. I mean,
Okay.
I've been when I saw her, I just wanted to, like, eat her.
Yeah.
And then I spent 5 years courting her. I
Oh,
mean, it
wow.
was 5 arduous years, yeah.
What did you
And
have?
and we were very close during those 5 years, like, we were like
Uh-huh.
best friends,
Yeah.
but she had a boyfriend.
Okay.
And then one day she calls me, and she goes, "Hey, I don't," and she's like, "Hey, you gotta stop, because, like, I will never cheat on my boyfriend."
Uh-huh.
And then one day she called me, and she's like, "I broke up with my boyfriend."
Oh, wow.
I literally just, like, walked straight to where my girlfriend was. It was in a college
Yeah.
town, and broke up with her. And I was
Wow.
this homeless dude who lived in a car, and my girlfriend was this crazy fucking hot college chick, right?
Wow.
Like a neuroscientist or some shit. And I go,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm breaking up with you." And she looks up with her beautiful blonde hair and her beautiful face. She goes, "You're breaking up with me?" I said, "Uh-huh."
Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
And then I fucking ran down the street to where fucking Haley was, and
So
fucking
what was the difference maker?
and
What
jumped
made
on
her
her.
finally break up with her boyfriend to be with you?
I don't know what I think. She just slowly fell out of love with him. I'm just making this up, but I think he was a great guy, really
Mhm.
smart, getting his PhD in, like, Sanskrit or something.
Yeah.
My wife is, extremely, my wife has a lot of, like, very deep spiritual practices.
Yeah.
Every morning she's sitting, she's very, very centered human being,
Like
and
meditation and stuff, and
yeah,
yeah.
yep, and, which I think for me is synonymous with prayer. Like, as I read
Yeah.
your book, like,
Yeah.
this resonates to me, because this is how I live. I try to live my life, even as I was reading your book. That's how I live my life from the second I get up to the second I go to bed. I'm
Yeah.
either trying to listen, or I'm talking to God.
Yep.
And I veer off the course,
Yeah.
but I'm pretty good at, like, I'm pretty good at it.
We all
Just
do, man, but
just through
that's a part of
just
it.
shitloads of practice, like
Yeah.
the book talks about. So, so for me, those 2 words are interchangeable, and I apologize if that's, I don't know, blasphemy, but for me,
No,
those
it's
2
not.
words are interchangeable: meditation and prayer.
Yep.
Um, uh, but basically, I think I don't think he inspired her. He was
Mm.
smoking a lot of weed.
Mhm.
I don't think he inspired her.
Yeah.
And, I'm a pretty, I've never said this out loud. I've never even thought this about myself, but I'm a pretty inspiring character. Like,
You are.
yeah, I go. And so, um, I think she was like, "Okay." And of course, her parents were devastated.
Yeah.
Now she's fucking pivoting from a PhD to a guy who lives in his fucking car, who's not Jewish. I mean, what a
Is she
mess.
Jewish?
What Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So was that a big deal?
I mean, not to me. To me,
No, for
she was.
her and her
Oh,
family.
uh, y what happens is people, like, you want your kid to marry your
Yep.
ethnicity
Mhm.
until they hit, like, 30. Then you're
Yeah.
like, "Okay, we'll settle for
Just find
someone else."
somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah, please
yeah.
find
So
somebody. Yeah.
I think she was getting close. I think they
Uh-huh.
were devastated at the moment, but then
Yeah, yeah.
eventually I think they were just happy she got married, and then we
Right.
didn't have kids till she was 39.
Okay.
So, like, and grandparents want kids, or, parents want kids too, and we were
Yeah.
like, "We're never gonna get married.
Yeah.
We're never gonna have kids.
Oh,
That
wow.
marriage is just tool of the man. If you're a tool, you do that, you know?
Yeah. You're being
And
controlled by the
yep,
gut. Yeah, yeah,
yep. And if and kids are just, like, pointless, there's plenty of kids.
yeah,
And then, now we have 3 kids, and it's like, "Holy shit, this is the greatest thing ever." And we're married. Yeah, I was,
yeah,
I'll tell you the story. I was on an airplane, and there was turbulence. And when there's turbulence on an airplane, I start telling people I love them in my head, no matter
yeah,
who pops up.
yeah,
Enemies, fucking people I can't stand, someone's name will pop up, and I'll be like, "I love you, Jared
yeah,
Ellis."
yeah,
And I just go through and I just start just, like, professing my love to people. I don't know
yeah,
why I do that, but I just started doing that, 15 years ago. And I there was this, like, an interruption, like a record scratch,
mm,
and it said, "You should marry her." It
wow,
was like one, and I don't have very many, like, it was pretty, like, and it was like, "Who was that?" I was like, "Holy shit."
dude,
That
that's incredible.
'Cause that's not like, you know what I mean? I'm like, I thought marriage was just ridiculous.
Right,
Just not good, not bad, just ridiculous.
yeah,
Like, and, and then so we went to the courthouse, and
come
they
on.
actually we even had a ceremony. I don't know if you know that, but when you go to the courthouse, they still take you into a little room, and there's an
Oh, yeah,
altar, and a Chinese lady who barely spoke English did our service, you know what I mean?
yeah.
It was crazy. It was
Where were you guys? Was this in, Santa Cruz?
Oakland, California, the
Oakland,
courthouse,
okay.
yeah. Gangster
So
shit.
not the San Francisco, courthouse.
No, but it was crazy. It was, yeah, and something did happen when I married. I
Yeah,
don't know what, but something did happen, and I was extremely happy that I got
yeah,
married.
yeah,
Like, extremely, like, from that moment on, something there was some shift
yeah.
for sure.
Dude, marriage is the best. I mean,
Yeah.
as long as you marry the right person, yeah, marriage is amazing. I I understand. Obviously, as a pastor, I work with people. Work with marriages all the time, and I know that it's not everybody has the same situation. But we got married when I think we were what 28, 29,
How
and
long were you friends with her first?
just about a year.
Yeah.
We were both at that point in our lives, we were both adults. We both traveled the world. We both knew what we wanted. And my whole philosophy is, especially in the church world, because, first of all, you're not having sex till you're married. So it kind of puts you got to go. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're not trying to be dating here for like 3 years. But also like we were just at a point in our life where we knew what we wanted. We knew who we were. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to figure myself out while in a relationship. And so it's like, why do we have to wait around, this long to figure, like, we know, and I already knew by just being friends with her, seeing her character. We spent a lot of time around other people. I watched how she worked. I watched you know, how she treated her family. It's like, this person I knew before I asked, hey, let's start dating seriously. I already knew that I would want to marry her. And so and I kind of had that pressure because I was the pastor of the church and she was my brother-in-law was the executive pastor. She's the executive pastor's sister. It's like, if this doesn't work out, it's kind of messy. You know what I mean? And so going into it, we already kind of have this, like, if we're going to do this, we pretty much need to know that we want to do this. And so, um, but yeah, I mean, marriage is the best, man. Like I said, as long as you're friends with that person that you're married to, you have a real friendship and you actually enjoy each other. Um, Man, I would never want to go back to being single. I'll tell you that.
Were you looking at her one day, Jared, and then something clicked, like I don't know if the word's transfixed, but is there, like, one day where you, like, "Holy shit, I just opened my eyes."
Absolutely.
You kind of, like, just had her in a box. That's
Yep.
so and so's sister, she's good at this, she's good, "Hi, how are you? Nice to see
Yep.
you, blah, blah, blah." And then one day you're putting a piece of turkey in your mouth, and you look over, you're like,
Yeah.
"Dude, when did you get here? What have I"
Yeah.
like that?
I can tell you exactly when that
Please
happened
tell me,
too, because
because I've
we
had that
were,
happen to me in life before with people, not
yeah.
just women, but just, like, people, like, I just all of a sudden see them with new eye, like,
Yep.
the story drops away and I see them and I'm like, "Whoa."
Yeah. Yeah, so we were every Sunday night, like after church, we would go over to my brother-in-law's house. And we would just play like board games, tons of board games. And I remember one night, and her and I are very competitive. And usually we would be on the same team because there would be a ton of couples and then us. And so we would kind of get forced to be together. It was all a ruse from the beginning. But we would be playing. And I remember this one night we were playing, we were not on the same team. And I was just like, I was a dick. Like I was winning. I was a bad winner.
Yeah.
And I could
I
tell
love a bad winner. I love a
and
bad so
I am a
fun.
bad winner. And
Competitive
so,
people love bad winners. She probably
yeah.
loved it. You know what I mean? You like kinda like
But
the
she
beat
was like
down.
visibly frustrated and upset,
Yeah.
and I could tell. And it was like the first time that I kind of felt really bad about it. And so
Uh-huh.
I remember like we left, and I called her because I felt so bad. And like it was like the
Oh,
first time
wow.
we had kind of like this serious conversation outside of just normal life. And it was like I got off the phone with her and I was like, oh, dude, I think I really love this girl. Like, I think I really care
Wow.
about her. And yeah, that was kind of
Because,
the
like, you
moment.
called her, all the signs were there for yourself. You're like, "Okay," as you're reflecting back on how you felt about being overly competitive with her, that turned
Yep.
it the algebra was, "Oh, shit, I care."
Yep. Yep. Yeah. And I could tell there was like, I think she cares too. And oh man, this is a messy situation. Can we do this? And so like we kind of like went through this whole season of like, do we date? Do we not? We kind of both know. And what I love about my wife is, so my wife is an incredibly strong woman. She, like I said, she was extremely successful in the corporate world, owned her own business. Like she can run the show. And most of the guys she dated before me were very like passive. She's in the driver's seat. I was the first guy. I'm extremely type A, very dominant. And
Oh, so
I
she
knew
needed you. She needed you.
but I needed her.
Right.
She was more than capable to like drive,
Well,
but one of the
what
most
I mean is
attractive.
a woman needs a man to drive.
Oh
'Cause she
yeah,
got
for
'cause she
sure.
got 'cause she got shit to do in the passenger seat and in the back seat. She got shit to do.
A hundred
The I
percent.
think the quickest way to an unhappy woman, she thinks she wants a man who does who just, serves her on her every fucking
Yep.
whim,
Mhm.
but really, those end up after a couple years, I think, n not working so good.
100%.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that was the most attractive about her in that season was like, I know that she could have initiated conversations or kind of moved the ball forward. Not that she was unable, but she chose, and I said this in my vows, that she chose to let me lead in those situations, in those
Right,
conversations. And
right.
to me, that was the most attractive thing because I know you
Mm.
don't need me to lead, but you're letting me lead. And
Right,
that felt
right.
like for the first time, I'm like, this is partnership. You know what I mean? I'm not having to pick up the slack. You're more than capable and you don't need me in your life. But I never felt this pressure from her. Like, hey, what is going on? What are we? What are we doing? She was always just very calm and very, collected. And so I think that kind of eventually led to this, like, hey, we need to have a conversation here. Are we going to do this or not? And so we end up, I call it a DTR, we define the relationship. We sit down and we DTR, and I'm like, hey, I think we should do this. And she's like, I don't think we should do this. I think this is a mistake. It's probably going to get messy. And so I'm like, hey, I'm not going to, force you. It is what it is, like, whatever. And so we
Was the
decide, like,
attraction there for her and she was just trying to push it
oh
away?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. We were both attracted to each other. We both wanted to be
Had
with
you
each other,
touched
but
her? Had you held her hand at that point?
no,
No,
no, we
never
had
even
no
held her
physical
hand.
contact. Yeah.
None.
'Cause I just when I was dating, like, I wasn't gonna do any of that stuff until I knew I was committed in a relationship, and at
Right.
that point, we weren't. And so I kinda took my cues from her at that point. I was like, "Okay, if you don't feel comfortable moving forward, then we're not going to." And so we went a week, like, not talking to each other,
Oh,
and
that must have drove you crazy.
I was like, this is bullshit. Like, this is so stupid. Like, this is
Yeah.
the dumbest thing we've ever done." And so I remember I
You
texted
feel
her. I
like
was
you're
like, "Hey,
8 again, right? You feel like you're 8 years
yeah."
old again. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was so funny because in all my other relationships, when I had kind of gotten space, I felt like a weight was lifted off. Like I felt good. This was the first time I was like this is so dumb. Like life without each other is a stupid decision. And so we met up a week later and I had a whole plan. Like I literally I had a 3-page letter that I wrote her. I was like, look, it's your decision, but I'm going to lay out the plan here for our relationship and where I want to go and where I feel like our future can go. And you tell me what you want to do. And so I laid it out. She was like, all right, let's do it. So we dated. And then I think it was like 7 months later, I proposed to her and, yeah, we moved forward. And so, yeah, it's been a crazy ride.
Do you remember the first time you touched her hand?
Well, I remember the first time I touched her hand unintentionally. Like
Oh, you do? Yeah.
we were the stupid Christians, like the corny Christian stuff. So we would be playing games and we'd be on each other's team. So we'd if we'd win a round, we'd high five, but kind of
Yeah.
linger a little bit,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I love all that shit. I love all
yeah. And I
that
was like,
stuff.
oh my gosh, I can't wait till we win another round,
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah. Or you sit next to
yeah,
her,
we
your
do.
knee bumps her knee, and you're like, "Yeah." You're
Yeah,
like, "I'm good."
yeah.
God,
Yeah,
isn't
but the
life
first
great?
time, the first time I kissed her was when we went out on our first official date as a
Yeah,
dating couple. We
yeah,
went out to sushi, and we had to we were covert because we didn't go public with our relationship until 5 months into it because I didn't want the church to know and then start putting all this pressure on us because
right,
I'm the senior pastor, and so she would automatically get put into this position of the first lady. She's like, oh, she's dating the pastor. And I just wanted to guard against that for us to just kind of figure out if this was going to work. So we would go to restaurants 45 minutes outside of town to just avoid seeing anybody. And so we would go out to this sushi place up in Roseville area. And then that night when we got back, I was like, it's going down. And so then that was the first time I kissed her, and it was pretty awesome.
yeah. Um, when you, there's this archetype of a Christian, right?
Yeah.
And when you know that you're not in the archetype, but you're still I don't wanna put words in your mouth, so unfuck anything I say, but when there's an archetype of a Christian, and when you're not in the archetype, but you're still channeling God's will,
Mhm.
do you trip on that?
Nope.
Or did you ever trip on that?
Nope.
And
I
and
always
and
was that. I always was that. And when I read the Bible, Jesus was that. So when Jesus showed up, he did not fit the archetype of all of the religious leaders that were looking for this Messiah. And he screwed with them constantly. He obviously, we know he wasn't doing the wrong things, but according to their traditions, he was doing all the wrong things. And so when I look at Jesus's life, I see this person that was, yeah, constantly kind of breaking the paradigms of what religion and what religious tradition is supposed to look like. And that's something I'm super passionate about because my heart is I want to reach people who don't know God. And you have a really hard time doing that when you play into this caricature that everybody already has of what Christians are supposed to be. And it's not that I'm trying to not fit into that caricature, but
right.
I'm unwilling to not be myself and
Uh-huh.
put on this facade that, is everybody knows when it's pretend. Like you know when it's fake. And so
Mhm.
why would we, you know what I mean? Like, why would we continue playing that game? So I'm passionate about that. So no, I've always been that person that's like, let's break the paradigm. Let's kind of go outside the box.
And I love that because, there could be a stand-up comedian somewhere who's doing well, there's so many different manifestations on this planet, and if you believe in God, I guess you could say so many different manifestations of the, presence of humans and how they express
Mhm,
themselves and what they look like, and one
mhm.
might be a car designer, one might be one that tells poop jokes, one might
Yeah.
be, a pastor, um and they're judged by that, even though if they follow, you know, the deeper will of God, like maybe
Yeah.
some of the things like don't I'm making this up, but like don't wish ill will on people.
Right.
Like I don't know if that's in the Bible or not, but like I don't do
Mhm.
that.
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
do
I
that.
mean, it's the
Because,
golden rule, right? Treat others the way you wanna be treated. That's
okay,
that's
yeah.
that's a biblical principle, right?
Yeah, so no
Yeah,
matter
for
how
sure.
mad I am at someone, like, "Fuck that guy, he did this, he did that,
Mhm.
those guys are stupid," I'm never like, "Fuck, I hope they get in a car accident." Like,
Mhm.
never, ever, ever, ever do I wish
Right.
ill will on people. I don't
Right.
let that in. And so, that guy could be up there telling poop jokes for 4 hours, but to me, if he never wishes ill will on people and there's someone up there who's preaching Christianity the whole time, but then they wish ill will on the church next to him that fails,
Mhm.
I'm like, "Dude, like, I don't know, dude. I think that one little drop in the bucket that you dropped is no bueno. Like, you fell off the
Right.
path. It's not the poop joke that fell you off the path. It's the and I think that, when you're fishing for souls or when you're talking about God, you can do it through poop jokes. It's
Mhm.
just some people don't hear it,
Right.
but there are some people out there who do hear it,
Right.
and you have to kinda be aware of that. And so
Yeah, I
when I
think
think of you and just meeting you right now, I'm like, "Oh, this guy must get this guy is not presenting like, AME's, pastor."
right, right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Superficially,
I
you're not
think
presenting, as the archetype.
and I'm really intentional with that because I think again, I'm a normal person, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
There's so much to me, obviously, like, I am a Christian, I love God, I believe, in the scriptures, and so it's not like I'm throwing out the what we believe as truth, that Jesus is the way to God, like, all of those things are real, but I'm also, again, I'm a real person, and I'm in the business of reaching people, and in doing that, it doesn't help. I think people do that because, the archetype thing we're talking about, because we do this in whether it's religion or CrossFit or um, any type of Hollywood. People do what they have to do to fit into the environments they want to be accepted in. And so when you are constantly maintaining this facade or this archetype of, whether it's Christianity or something else, it usually means, hey, I'm fighting to be accepted within this group. When you already know that you're accepted by God because you understand the gospel, you understand what Jesus did for you, it destroys this need to constantly have to pander to be accepted, to change who you are, or to pretend that you're not a normal human being. And when I get up and preach on Sunday, my job there is not to present this, you know, deified version of a human being. Of I am so holy. I'm there to be as relatable as possible to real people who are going through real stuff. Man, people's marriages are falling apart. Their kids, they're worried about their kids in school. They're trying to pay the bills. They're struggling with mental health stuff. It's like it does not help me reaching you to pretend like I'm not going through the same things that you are and processing them the same way that you process them. And so that's I think something I'm really passionate about is how can I communicate my faith, my religious beliefs, all of these things, which I am not only passionate about, I'm well versed in them. I've been doing this for a long time. And even before I was in ministry at 16, I grew up in church. I know the Bible inside and out. I can go to toe to toe with any argument. But at the end of the day, man, I'm trying to reach real people. And
Mm.
and so it doesn't help me or anybody else to pretend. I think you're better just being real and just being who you are.
Y g g I'm a bit of a, uh I'm a bit of the master of the Bible myself. Let me show off some of my skills to you.
Let's go.
I'm gonna tell you some of my favorite parts. Um, I think there's some part in the Bible where, Jesus got the, apostles.
Yeah.
Those were the crew, that's the crew. He got the
Yep.
apostles together, and he says to them, "Hey, they're going to come after you,
Mhm.
and don't prepare your defense ahead of time.
Right.
Just open your mouth and let the word of God speak through you.
Mm. Okay.
And
Okay,
so
Stefan,
so
you're preaching now.
so that one, I'm telling you, I'm an expert in the Bible,
Yeah.
just in my own weird way. Um, that one really, uh, that's like one of my. That's like, I mean, there's so many favorites, but that one's awesome for me. Like, I use that one a lot,
Can I
and
tell you, I literally read that verse yesterday as when right after you called me and
yeah.
you were like, "Hey, like,
And by the way, I
I
never
don't know what."
call anyone before. I just
Yeah.
didn't, you know what I mean? But I just didn't want to be like, hey, I just wanted to put some ideas in your head of
No,
topics,
I appreciated it.
which none of them we've touched on. But I wanted to put
Yeah.
some ideas of topics in your head, and so that, like, when you went to sleep at night, it would
Yeah.
fill up with some of those. But go ahead.
But when you said that, I had this moment of like almost a little bit like, "Oh, snap, like should I prepare?" And I actually I went and I just started praying about, today, and the Lord brought that scripture to my mind and was like, "Hey, dude, I already put it in you. Like, you don't
Mhm.
have to worry about preparing or getting notes together. Like, just open up your mouth and whatever it is that comes out, like you've already done the work. You know what I mean?" And so I love that you bring that up because I think the world is looking for that, right? They're looking for genuine response, not this calculated statement. It's like, and that's why I love your show. That's why I love everybody that's a part of it. That's why I love Taylor. It's why I love Souza. Is because there is, regardless of how crass it may be at times, there is a genuineness and a realness that's what, in a world that is so polished and everything is, it's like a polished turd. It's like, here's this statement, this political statement or this news headline, and it's like, we all know it's crap, but you've made it sound real nice. People they're longing for something real. They just want a real response. And so, I think more than just, oh, I'm gonna prep something and have something that it's like, let's just have a real conversation. And so I love that you bring that one up. That's a really great scripture.
Why did he tell them that? Do you have any thoughts on that? Is that like,
Yeah.
is that like a component? Like, so one of the things about being on the show that I've learned, like, after my first year, I mean, I always knew it, but like, it took a while to settle in, is it's okay to take a pause
Mhm.
and make space
Yep. Silence.
for the words to come. It's okay. It might be
Yep.
uncomfortable, but you can learn to be comfortable with it. Or in a couple days ago, I did a show where I just took tons of space
Yeah.
because I just wanted to keep it really, really high.
Yep.
And but why would he tell them that? Is that to test their faith, or is that why?
No, so I mean, basically, Jesus is telling these disciples that, hey, like, I'm not going to be with you anymore because I'm obviously, I'm going to die, I'm going to resurrect, and then I'm out of here. And
Uh-huh.
so when you go, and the thing is that the disciples were considered unlearned. So in the Jewish tradition at that time, like a rabbi would have disciples. Those disciples would be in some sort form of rabbinical school. They would have religious training in the Torah, in the law. These guys had none of that. They didn't know the law. They weren't
Mm.
versed in the scriptures. They were fishermen, they were tax collectors, they were doctors. They came from real, working jobs. And so what Jesus is saying is like, look, I'm not going to be with you anymore, and you're going to be asked questions, and you're going to feel like, I'm not prepared for this. I don't have the answers. I wasn't trained. I'm unqualified. And he says, I'm going to give you my Holy Spirit, and when you open up your mouth, you're going to be shocked by what you already know because you've spent so much time with me, and my spirit is in you, that when you open up your mouth and you speak, you're going to be shocked at the things that come out of your mouth. You feel like you were unqualified to say. And then we see that after Jesus, ascends back into heaven, and the apostles start doing their ministry, it says the religious leaders knew that they had been with Jesus because they were unlearned and untrained. And so
Mm.
it actually was proof to the people around them that these guys, they should not be able to do what they're doing, say what they're saying, but there's something that's in them that's greater than what education they received. And so that's kind of why he makes that statement there.
Um, do you see a conflict in someone who has faith but Do you see a contradiction or something that doesn't make sense if um, there was someone who had faith but didn't believe in God or didn't believe that in Jesus as the Savior?
I mean, we all have faith in something, right? Even
Right.
atheists have faith. They have faith in what I would argue they have more faith than people who believe that God created the world. And so,
Explain
I
that
think
to me
we
really quick. What would they have faith in? Oh, they
so
have
to
like
have
faith like in TV and science
To
and stuff
have
like
faith
that?
that no, to or let's just say, like, if you don't believe that God created the world, right? That
Uh-huh.
Christians, that people who believe the Bible believe that God created the world.
Mhm.
If you don't believe that, you believe that we just you buy into the idea that all of a sudden one day everything just came out of nothing, which literally doesn't happen, right? Scientifically, that doesn't happen. Everything starts with something, it has to manifest from something. And so it takes a lot of faith to believe in a scientific theory that doesn't happen anywhere else than it
Mm.
does to believe that there was an intelligent designer who created the world. And now there's a lot of conversation and arguments as to how that happened. And we see, you know, could God have used um, science and the things, these types of big bangs to create the world? Of course, there's none of that's out of the question. But it takes a lot of faith to believe that everything is just this random happenstance. And so everybody has faith. You have faith that that chair is going to hold you up right now. That's why you're sitting in it. We all have faith at a measure. It just
Right.
depends on what you put your faith in. And so I don't think that I wouldn't say there's a conflict in the sense that, somebody has faith and they don't believe in Jesus. I think everybody has faith at some level. I would just say, you know, what is your faith in when it comes to your salvation, your eternity, where who you believe is the one calling the shots in your life. That's really what it comes down to when we're talking about religious belief versus faith and other things.
Let me tell you something even weirder then. I'll even be more dichotomy or make even less sense. So I don't believe in God, but I feel like God is running my life.
Okay.
Do you know what I
Tell me
mean?
how that works.
I can't. That's the thing. I can't really explain it. Um, it's everything's just too perfect. But I live this crazy charmed life.
Right.
I'm surrounded by just amazing people. But I don't. All like so many tenets of the Bible are just drilled into me so fucking deeply.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't. It just so many of the thing. I guess so many of the story. I guess the practices resonate with me. The stories don't resonate with me.
for sure. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like
100% understand that.
outside of Jesus's life, the stories don't resonate with me.
Yep.
And so, um,
So here's what can I
it's a tr
can I
it's
speak to that?
yeah, yeah, please, please, please.
So I think that is
Not that
probably
they
the
resonate with me, I see them as truth.
yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know, I see Jesus some of the things Jesus does is like truth because I'm seeing them work in my life. You set a cup here, and then it's
right,
there when you come back, and I'm like, if I do
right.
what Jesus did here, if I try to behave like Jesus and God, my life
Mhm.
works out great. If I
Yeah,
don't, shit starts to get a little squirrely.
right. I mean, I think that's the most relatable, like, perspective because even
Right.
I have had that, when in my teenage years, I lost my dad when I was 11, um, and then from 11 to about 16 was when I completely turned my back on anything religion and, did all crazy stuff. And that was one of my major, issues is I'm a realist. I'm very pragmatic. I don't like fantasy. And so a lot of the stories in the Bible, things like that, I wrestled with. And I don't think that the world actually really has much of a, I don't think they have much of an issue with principles found in the Bible either. I mean, now there are some people that, are just so far removed from any type of principle in general that they would reject anything the Bible has to say. But I don't think that people have an issue with love your neighbor as yourself, right? Like that sounds great, or the one that you bring up quite a bit, and like when you go to pray, don't pray out in the open for people to see you. Pray in
God,
in,
that's all
in
I couldn't
secret.
believe how much that's in your book, by the way, because that
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, "Wow, what a perfect time for me to pick up this book and read it last
right.
night." Because
Yeah,
I'm
and
seeing
that
so many
that's that
people pray in public
principle.
right now, and I'm like, "Wow."
Right. And that's that principle, right? Like you're going, what are you after? Are you after the applause of people? And if that's what you're after, that's fine, cool. But that's all you're going to get outside
Right.
of, or, you know, and so all these things are good principles. But the basis of Christianity, or, you know, our religious belief, is that the principles cannot be divorced from the person. Like, they're great principles, but you can find great principles in almost every religion. Islam has some great principles. They have some bad ones too, but they have some good principles. Judaism has great principles. Buddhism has great principles. All of these principles are, you can find positive principles in every religious text. But what we believe is that you cannot divorce the principle from the person. And God, who manifests himself as, in the Christian belief system, as the triune God, so Father, Son, and Spirit, that person is the only way that the principles can be implemented. Because here's the difference between Christianity and all of these other religions, is that while, yes, I fight to maintain those principles in my life, I try to love my neighbor, I try to do all these things, at the end of the day, I fail at them every single day. Like, I make a mess out of all of this stuff. And Christianity is not about striving to implement the principles of the Bible. Christianity is about accepting there is a person who lived those principles perfectly. And because Jesus did that for me on my behalf, I put my faith in him. And because I put my faith in him, his sacrifice, what he did, the way he lived his life, all of that was done for me and for anybody who receives him by faith. Then now, because of that, he owns my life. Like the Bible says, you were bought at a price. Your life is not your own. And so because he owns my life, he's king. And because he's king, I have to live under that rule. Like, I don't get to call my own shots, you know? And so when we talk about like prayer is yielding to that. I don't know I don't know what his, like, what do you want me to do? I go to prayer to find out, what do you want me to do? What's your will for my life? And I try to do my best to live up to that. But that's kind of the difference here, I think, in you can't divorce the principles from the person. I don't know if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Somewhat. By the way, that was my prayer coming into, often is coming into the podcast, is like, hey, let me talk to this person, and hopefully we have a conversation that's your will. Like, that's what I do with my guests. Like, hopefully, like, we can go somewhere. And I remember that this morning. Let me ask you this real. I'm falling into the weeds here. When you said if you accept Jesus with faith, so I don't know if I accept Jesus with faith, but like, you know, one time someone on the street stopped me in London, and they said, "Hey, will you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior?" I said, "Sure." And then we bowed our heads, and they opened the book, and they said it, and I walked on along my way. And then a few years later, I was telling my sister about it, and then I don't know, 10 years later, I think I was at a merry-go-round in Berkeley, and someone came up to me and said, "Hey, will you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior?" And I said, "Sure." And my sister walked up and was like, "Hey, I thought you already did that."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, but so what?" Like,
Do it again. Yeah.
double down on that shit. Plus, that guy wanted me to do it. Like, it's cool for him, right? Like,
Yeah. That sounds like church camp, going to the altar and receiving Jesus every single time.
I'm like, "What? You can't do it twice?" She's like, "No, I just never, see." But I don't think I did it in. When you say do it in faith, I don't think I did it in faith. I did it more as like a backup plan.
Sure. Yeah. It's fire
You know what I
insurance.
mean?
Yeah. I'm not,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
ain't
yeah,
trying to
yeah.
burn, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, hey, like, if you like, if like when I die, they're about to kick me down into the downstairs, and then they're like,
Right.
"Oh, but right here at the merry-go-round," I'm like, "Well, yeah, I did.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yep.
did it
Yeah. I got my
twice,
ticket. Yeah.
twice." Yeah.
Yeah.
What does it mean to accept it with faith?
Yeah. So I want to make a clear distinction too, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, and I can't see the comments right now. So I don't, I don't know what's going on, but I will say there is this idea that people have that, like, religion, you just have to take it with blind faith. Just take everything we say and just trust us. Okay. Christianity does not demand only blind faith. We have historical,
And by the way,
archaeological.
and that's what's crazy. I have crazy blind faith in God, but
Yeah.
yet I don't believe in God. It's so
Right.
weird. I can't fucking
Right.
explain it to you.
Well,
Or
I think
maybe
it's
I'm just
because
not
there's,
or maybe I'm not humble enough to accept that I believe in God. I don't know what it is, but I trip on I it's a I mean, I like it. It's working for me.
Your hands on the doorknob, man. You're right there.
Okay, go on. Okay, so they don't accept blind faith.
So yeah, so you don't have it doesn't demand blind faith in the sense that like we have to just pretend that we believe all this stuff. There's historical and archaeological evidence to everything that we find in scripture. It's not, and people have to understand that the Bible is not a history book of the world. It is primarily a history book of the Jewish religion and then Jesus's story. And so it doesn't have every single like historical event and everything in there, but we have historical archaeological evidence for this, not only for the stories in the Old Testament, and things that they're even, we're even science is starting to catch up with. We're talking about a massive flood event. I don't know if you've ever, like, if you indulged in the Joe Rogan conversations around the ancient civilizations and like all. I mean, I love that stuff.
Like with the giant, people try to get me like with the giants and stuff. Like when
no. It's the idea that there was a catastrophic flood event that happened about 8,000 years ago that completely changed the landscape of
like the Noah story.
Yeah, exactly. And almost every religion, in whether it's current or even more ancient than that, has a flood story, right? So there's all of these things. We have archaeological, historical evidence, and then we talk about Jesus's life. Like no historian or theologian worth their weight in salt is going to argue that Jesus was a real person that walked this earth, that like this is all documented, not just in the Bible. We have other historical texts, eyewitness accounts that prove that Jesus was a real person. All of that, there's books that you can read, More Than a Carpenter, lots of different books that talk about the evidence around why we can trust the sources here. But at the end of the day, in the midst of all of that, it's still going to come down to, do you believe that Jesus is God, that he came to this earth and he died for your sins so that you don't have to go to hell, that you can live, not just for the afterlife, but even now, that you can live a life of hope and purpose and grace now. Do you believe that he did that for you? And if you do believe that in faith, are you willing to align your life with what he says in his word your life is supposed to look like? That's the faith.
My shit's the other way around. For me, I don't care whether he was real or not. Like going down that path of historical evidence, or like
So where's your hang up? Like, what's the thing you feel like you can't get your mind around?
There's because I don't care if he's real or not. I have my own evidence that the practice works.
Right.
Tons of fucking evidence.
Yeah.
Tons and tons and tons of evidence for my personal life. Right. Like you do good shit. Like you don't just do good shit. You are good shit. Like not like college karma where like I give you a cigarette now so that later on when I'm at the concert someone can give me one later. It's just like I give everything of mine is yours. It's all God's. Like if you're coming to me for it, like you know what I mean? It's just like but the noun of God, or those things I don't It's more like the gears in a clock. They're all back there doing all that shit, and then you look at the front and it's all perfect. 2 hands spin perfectly. That's how more like it is for me.
Okay.
Like, hey, you act like a cog and everything is gonna fucking run smoothly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
but sometimes that's not how it works. You know what I mean? And I think that's where, like, just for example, right? Take the situation we're dealing with this week, right? With Lazarus and all that stuff. Like, how do you explain that?
Well,
you know what I mean? How do you explain that?
But for me, I don't know what all the other I don't know what cog that person was on.
The gears are going.
Yeah, I don't know, but like I accept it. Like when I push, there's this Taoist saying, all problems must flourish before they come to an end. And that when you stand up against certain problems, you only make them bigger.
Right.
And is there something like that in the Bible?
I mean, there's
because there's certain things in society that I'm pushing up against.
Right.
Like the thing with Lazar is dying. I have to just work on my own acceptance of the reality of it.
Right.
I have to work on my own acceptance of the reality of it and the ramifications and the
Mhm.
fallout and all the. I mean, there's just carnage everywhere, right? In
Right,
terms
right,
of like people, the stuff that's coming out of people.
right,
But like, there's things like I'll give you a real example. Like this thing where they've passed laws in California where you can come get a 12-year-old can go to school and have a relationship with someone that's outside of the parent's relationship with the child.
right,
Like that makes me want to fight.
right.
Like that makes me want
Yeah,
to
it
fight.
should. Yeah.
but it doesn't align with it doesn't align with my scripture.
Well, the reason why I bring
Do you,
that up is
yeah.
just because I think that sometimes there are things that are obviously like the gears aren't working or trying to make sense of stuff that, like you talk about,
I'm
I've
comfortable
heard you
not
talk about on the
understanding
show.
things too. I'm comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately what it comes down to when back to your original question of like, how do
Right.
you accept Jesus by faith?
Yeah.
The biblical definition of that is not just faith, because the Bible says that even demons believe that God is. That doesn't mean that they're saved or that they're living a life that is honoring to God.
Oh.
It's
Oh.
There's no such thing as an atheist demon. They all believe in God. They know what is the truth. The issue is that, do you accept him as king over your life,
How could
and
you
do you
know
live a
there's a
life of
God?
repentance?
How could you know that there's a God and go against God? It doesn't even make sense to me.
It's called rebellion. People do it all the time. The Bible actually says, and this is a bit of a
That doesn't
controversial verse. It's kind of
that sounds like
offensive,
some crazy balls of steel.
but so in Romans it says that all humanity has been given the knowledge, or at least the availability, the accessibility to the knowledge of God. Whether it's through creation, you look out and you're like, man, there's got to be a designer here, like there's got to be a creator, or through personal experience with God somewhere in their life. All people have. There's nobody that is exempt from having access to the
Right.
knowledge of God.
Right.
And so people do it all the time. You know what I mean? People, and you see it. It's the rage filled, it's irrational anger. I'm just gonna, because I just, and a lot of that has to do with hurt and trauma and things that have happened in their lives. But people do it all the time. I did it. I knew that God existed, and yet I lost my dad. And because he died, and because that made no sense within my belief system,
Mm.
I rebelled for those years, because even though I knew it was right or whatever, my experience was louder than those beliefs. And so it happens
Oh,
all the
oh,
time.
oh, oh. That makes sense to me. The noise. Many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? Damn, God, my reading's gone to shit.
Yeah.
Take two. What do you mean? Yeah, you don't have to agree with me. Many,
You
many
do
will.
struggle to read the comments sometimes, Emma.
Well, stop. Many. Okay, right. Thank you, Father. Many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? Question mark. And then will I declare to them, I never knew you. Oh, fuck. Will you read that? Can you read that?
Yeah, I'm having a hard time. Like, the
Oh, okay.
size is a little bit tough, but I know the
Oh,
scripture. He's saying
okay.
there will be people at the end when God judges the earth. They're going to say, "Hey, like, we did all this stuff. We did ministry in your name. We prophesied in your name. We cast
Yeah.
out demons in your name." He's going to say, "I didn't know you." Why? Because you used principles, but you didn't have a relationship with me.
Oh,
I didn't know you, and you didn't know me. Why? Because you did not accept my son
mm.
as the door.
Oh,
That's the
that's
door.
me. He's talking about me.
He is. I mean, you said it, not me. Your words, not mine. But that's the reality, right? Like, and I say that, Sevan, because I think I don't know if you remember this, but a year ago, my wife and we went to the CrossFit Games,
Mhm.
and I messaged you on Instagram, your old account that got deleted,
Okay.
and I said, "Man, I just want you to know I'm a huge fan. Like, been watching the show for a while. I really feel like God has an anointing on your life. That's kind of a Christian word for like you're gifted and graced by God to do what you do, in a
I
very
feel that
special
way.
way.
I feel
Yeah.
that way. Like
And
like I
so like
I say
you're
that with zero humility.
yeah, no, you don't I mean, own it, man. Just
Yeah,
that's
I
why I
feel
put
that
the
way.
fittest pastor as my title on this thing.
Yeah.
You got to own it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel that way.
But so it's like it's there, but at the same point in time, as Christians, we do believe like there is one way to salvation. That we're unapologetic about that, and I say that in a way that some people are afraid because they don't want to offend people. That if you say there's one way to God, at the end of the day, this is what we believe. I'm not going to shy away from that. At the same point in time, even Jesus in his ministry in the Gospels, there are people that were seeking him and they weren't there yet. They weren't quite at that point where it's like, okay, I'm ready to fully go all in. A famous story is Jesus meets with this Pharisee, Nicodemus, in the middle of the night because the guy's afraid that if his buddies see him mingling with Jesus, he's going to get ousted from his political party and he's going to get ostracized. So he meets up with him in the middle of the night, starts asking him questions, and Jesus never rejects that. Jesus never pushes those people away because that's what Jesus came to do, to seek and save the lost. And the end, we're all lost, man. We're all trying to find our way. And so that's why I say, and I think when people, I always laugh when people on the phone or they're like, "You're so close, Sevon." They're like, "Oh, we're gonna get him." Like I'm a little bit more like, "Hey, I'm here, answer any questions." Like, but I feel like you are in that space of, I think God, man. I really do. I think God, and I think his presence in your life. You've seen his hand in your life, and so I think the question is like, what do you want to do about that? And that's. I hope that doesn't come off like offensive, but that's
No. Sometimes I feel like there's breadcrumbs that lead to God, and my job is I'm just one of the breadcrumbs,
yeah,
and I'm happy to be one of the breadcrumbs.
dude, that's awesome.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like there's cogs on the ladder, and
Mhm.
like I'm a docent on like um um on one of the rungs that's like just in the middle. Like, okay, that like I'm just being like that way. That
Yeah.
way, that's my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't get to go. I'm not going up like right now. Like I'm just one of the cogs. I don't know. Maybe it's just bullshit I make up. Ben Alderman. I mean, it is bullshit I make up. Ben Alderman. Sounds like it needs to be pragmatic to be true. Is that what you're saying? It's almost like I'm greedy. It's like I want more miracles. Show me
Mm,
more. You know what I mean? I want to see a bigger snake in my yard. Let me see
yeah.
another alligator lizard. You know what I mean? Bring another red cardinal to my yard and let me sit there and watch. You know what I mean? It's
Join the
almost
club, man. Yeah, join the club.
it's like
I mean,
it's like,
so and
Hey,
that's
give me one good avocado from my tree that I've been taking care of for 8 years, dude." Like,
but
you know
here's
what I
the
mean?
crazy thing though.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
yeah,
my avocado tree will not. It will never. That would be a miracle. I would receive that miracle too.
yeah,
Um, so when Jesus was doing his ministry,
yeah,
like he's healing the sick, he's casting out devils, he's raising the dead, like he's done all of this stuff. He's preaching, and the people still are like, "Hey, we need a sign. Like we need to know. Like we know, but we like really need to know.
yeah,
And he's like, dude, like I've given you every sign and you still won't believe in it. It's this part of the Bible that shows that it's never enough. Like for me, even for
right,
me, like
right.
it's
Well,
never
that's the
enough.
nature of man right there, right? Just
Yep.
yeah, okay.
There's always going to be that I want to sign, I want to sign. And they literally had Jesus in the flesh and it wasn't enough for them. They killed him. They literally killed him because of it. And I think that we think we're so much better. Like, oh no, if I had this one miracle, I'd totally fully give my life. And it's like, no, you wouldn't, dude. You're no better than those guys that literally killed him because, and they cried out that it's the same exact, we are, the human condition hasn't changed. We're all the same, and we just have to be willing to admit that and be honest about it. I think that that's the first step in being able to kind of make sense of all of this.
Do you ever confuse your voice with God's voice?
Um, that is,
When you're alone.
yeah, that's like the main struggle of prayer, right? Like, was that me or was that God? Like
Right.
that's why I wrote that book, because over the years, I have learned, not that I always get it right. I don't. And I really hope that it doesn't come across like I know everything. I do not, dude. I make so many mistakes, and I'm trying to figure this thing out too. But I have spent the past, what, like, you know, however many years, I'll do the math, from 16 to 34. Like I've been doing this for a long time. I've developed a relationship with God. I pray every morning. I get up and I spend time in prayer. I've learned to recognize the voice of God versus my voice. And then there's fruit behind that. Like, did you remember the Shaun White story in that book
Yep.
where, like, you know what I mean? Like, so there are instances like that where I have proof or fruit, what we would say, to back up where, hey, God, I felt like God told me to say this or do this, and I stepped out in faith. I didn't fully know if it was me or not, but I was willing just to take the risk, because I would rather be a person that asks for forgiveness later than having to ask for permission. Like I want to go, I want to move,
Right.
you know?
Me
And
too.
so I believe in faith that God's speaking to me. I'm going to do something. I'm going to step out. And dude, if I make a mistake, God is a good father. He's not going to like ream me out. He's not a tyrant. He's not trying to, just destroy my life. He wants good things for my life. And so if I need to be corrected, he'll correct me. But I've got so many instances of hearing God's voice and following through on that, and then seeing the fruit of it, that the doubts have become less and less. And that's why I wrote the book, is like, I want people to not have to feel like, dude, I don't know, was that me or not? Because if you feel that way, you're not going to want to pray anyway, because you're going to that's going to be a place of confusion, and it's going to feel like shame.
Does when you pray, does God always greet you the same way? The when you first connect, do you always get greeted the same way?
No, I mean, it's not like an audible greeting, you know what I mean? So
Oh.
I mean, and it's different. It depends. Like most of the time, what my prayer life looks like, dude, is I go downstairs, I make my coffee, um, and I sit in my chair, and I well, honestly, I'll open up my phone first. I'll scroll to see if I have notifications. I'll put my phone down because I'm like, crap, I'm supposed to be praying. I'll put the phone away, and then I'll sit there. I'll read my Bible first, just because it's usually a way for me to kind of get my mind right.
Mhm.
And then I pray. And sometimes I get up and I pray like for people, I'm praying for things that need, or sometimes I just sit there in silence. I meditate, or I put on some music and I listen, and I'm just kind of still. It's different every time. And sometimes I feel like, man, if you're not a Christian, and I know this can sound weird, I try to say things in a way that doesn't sound weird, but there are times where I sense God's presence. Like I can physically feel, like,
Mm.
whether I get emotional or I feel a peace or whatever, I sense the presence of God. And then sometimes, like, nothing. It's like a wall, And those are the days where it's like, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing faithfully, and trust that when God wants to speak to me, he will. Like,
Mm.
but um, I'm not going to get discouraged by that.
For me, it's always the same connection, and that's
Tell me
why I
about it.
asked.
What does that look like?
Oh, I don't know if I wanna say it. I mean,
Okay.
it's nothing profound. It but when it's very simple.
Yeah. No, if it's private, man, you
It's
don't
not
have to share it at all.
it's not that it's private. It's more about, I don't wanna be judged for it.
Yeah.
But for me,
Well,
when I
yeah.
get the exerciser now at 20%
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
um, uh, but it's always the same. Like, when I enter that space,
Yeah,
there's an event,
yeah,
and, um, it's a trip.
yeah,
It's a it's, but it feels very real, and it's very settling.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's very
yeah,
calm. It's very, very, uh it's, like, still and crazy and chaos at the same time.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool, man.
But it's an event. I'll tell you offline. I don't know why, normally I don't,
No,
censor
man,
myself.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't know why I
deeply
don't.
personal. I mean,
You know
prayer
why?
is a
Because I
deeply
don't think
personal.
here's why I don't wanna say it, because I don't want anyone to tell me it's not true.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No,
I don't want
yeah,
anyone to be
and
like,
that's why
"Hey,
I'm
hey,
like
she
refrain.
doesn't."
You know what I mean?
She's
Like,
like, "She
yeah,
doesn't love you."
it's not I get it. It's not like when they asked Trump, like, "What's your favorite Bible verse?" He's like, "It's personal. I don't want to talk about it."
Right, right, right. Andrew Hiller, what's his Fran time?
Oh, man, I have it logged somewhere.
He's not gonna if you don't know it off the top of your head, he's
It's
question
I
he's
know it's I
asking.
know it's, I I wanna say that it was no, I don't wanna say it because I don't wanna say it and it be wrong. Let
Do
me
you
see if
remember
I have
how
it
about your
logged.
first Fran time? Do you remember your first
My
Fran
first
time?
round time was terrible,
Did you get sub
terrible.
10?
Um, it was so long ago, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I probably was sub 10,
Even the
but
first time?
I don't know, man. I can't remember. Let me see if I have it in my benchmarks.
Hiller, there's too many Bible verses in there. God, I wonder if Hiller's gonna make a video of this, just tearing you up. I'm
I
joking.
actually thought about that this morning. I was like, "Hey, uh, Hiller, I love you, man. I watch all your videos." I actually met Hiller at the games last year and took a picture with him. But so right now, my Fran, what I have logged in Sugar Watt says 231.
Holy shit. So
So
you're
that was
pulling the
my
bar down. You're pulling the bar down. You're flying.
yeah. But I mean, I'm 150, so I'm lean. You know what I mean? Like gymnastics are kind of my thing, but strength is not. So
Oh,
Fran is like up my
w
alley, and
if you don't
then
think strength is your thing, wait 20 years and see what happens to your strength. Oh, buddy. What's crazy about being young is you can access your strength right away. When you're old, sometimes it, like, takes a minute to get it.
yeah.
Yeah, your
I mean,
body's like
I'm feeling like it's changing. It's things are changing. I can feel it like especially this year, and I don't know what it is, but it's like, man, I'm taking a lot more time for mobility and stretching like than
smart.
I ever have, you know. I mean, I do like the Sentinel Compete programming, so it's a lot of volume, but yeah, it's things are changing. But I also feel like I'm in the fittest place of my life because I never did. This has just been a journey over the past couple of years. You know, before this, I was just lifting weights at the Globo gym. So, um, but yeah, it's yeah.
Oh, well, Mac Lefty, what is God's name?
Do you want me to answer that?
Oh, yeah, fuck, I don't know what God's
So
name.
in the Old Testament, right, God reveals his name as Yahweh or
Okay.
Jehovah.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And then obviously there's a lot of different names, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi, like all these different kind of names of God, but it's the same God. And then, as like I said, in the Christian tradition, is the God is the triune Godhead, which we see throughout the Old and New Testament. Is that you've got God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. It's one person. I'm sorry, it's one God, three persons, which is really bizarre and confusing, and I can't fully explain how that works. The
That's the
closest I can
Jehovah
explain it,
Witnesses believe that?
I don't think they do. I know they
Oh,
don't
okay,
believe that Jesus is God. So
okay.
yeah, we have a problem there. But um, it's kind of like body, soul, and spirit. Like there's three parts to me, but it's all me. You know what I mean? Like the body part is
Right,
very
right.
separate from the soul versus from the spirit. So it's kind of similar how I'd explain like the Trinity. And then God obviously reveals himself as Jesus in the New Testament as the Son of God, the Messiah, and then the Holy Spirit, who's with us now, is also God, and that's kind of how he reveals himself.
That person was probably looking for Yahweh.
There you go.
Um,
Was that the nice way of like you could have shut up like 30
no,
seconds ago?
no, no, not at all, not at all. I'm just guessing. Is God okay with Hiller taking PEDs? That stands for performance enhancing drugs.
Totally, dude.
He's totally fine with it. Okay.
Totally. Pastor approved.
Pastor approved PED.
Mm. Hey, how are you doing? Like I mean, it's been a week now since the games and all that stuff. Like, I know you obviously I've like kind of heard you in different shows and stuff like, but how are you feeling? How are you processing like everything? I'm assuming you've had like a lot of conversations with your guys and I know Andrew's like in a very different place. And so like how are you doing?
I watched Andrew's video yesterday and compared,
Yeah.
which was interesting, and then I did the podcast yesterday, and I thought that
Yeah.
they were like perfectly aligned. He
The
just got
Henshaw video.
the yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I hate to call it that, but um, y- 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 uh, you know, um, I think we're perfectly aligned. It's like, on one hand, like, I really like Henshaw, like, I love Henshaw, and he's been
Mm.
great to the show, and on the other hand, I think that he was used as an example of, like, "Hey, look at how crazy the noise is out there," and it's not like
Yeah.
Henshaw can't change his mind or he has different perspectives or
Right.
or in different, like, maybe we have parts of each other inside of us that don't know each other. So, but he has his brains blown out all over the community, and like, I
Yeah.
can't, like, I'm not that took an emotional toll on me, although, like, I don't have an issue with Andrew doing it, like, at
Yeah.
all. Like it's like almost a sacrifice Hinshaw made, but like,
Yeah.
it's all out there. Like, part of me wants to just go through everyone's Instagram post and
Mm.
show the insanity that they're speaking. But on the other hand, like, I don't. If I do that, I'm not gonna have any friends left.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta be careful. Yep.
And so,
Well, I think Andrew's like the way I see Andrew is like, I mean, I feel like he's a journalist, you know what I mean? Like he's literally just doing sometimes it may not feel like the greatest timing, but he's doing his job, and people rely on him for that kind of news and that kind of clarity. And so it's tough, right? Obviously that's a tough call. And I think Chris is a great guy. And yet at the same time, I really appreciate what Hiller does, because I think it people are, yeah,
but I think it rocked Hiller too. After watching his video, um,
his video rocked him.
I think the whole situation has rocked Hiller. I think, like, I saw his video yesterday, his 10-minute
Yeah.
video, and I saw his, like, emotional fatigue, and I
Yeah.
saw his mood, and
Yeah.
I don't, um he's being repelled, like, he's
Yeah.
being repelled from the community, not by other people, but by himself. Like,
Yeah.
he's stepping out of it, and I think a part of him, like, wants to walk away, like,
Mhm.
from I think he wants to walk away, and the manifestation for me is like, I don't wanna look anymore,
Yeah.
because the stuff people are saying is just so. You can't say you're a mom, and so, and then you can't start that. Your premise can't be, I'm a mom, and so I feel so deeply
Mhm.
for what Luca's parents are going through, without saying I'm a mom and I feel so deeply for what the girl on the paddleboard's mom's going
Right.
through. You just can't.
Right.
And so when you see people who aren't, like, speaking logically like that, you
Yeah.
just, like, I don't want to just start just judging the fuck out of those people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 100%. And
Like,
I think nothing you say right now, like I was thinking about this
I mean,
morning.
I want to start judging them like that. Like, I want to go
Right.
scorch earth.
Right. But the thing is that
I know it's gonna make me feel bad.
and nobody's gonna listen. Like, at the end of the day,
You you mean the people
right
who need to
now.
listen aren't gonna listen?
No, I'm saying that in this, yeah, I guess in this moment, yeah,
Yeah,
those
yeah.
people, because anytime, obviously, as a pastor, like I deal with this stuff all the time, whether it's grief, trauma, or managing my church through 2020 and having to lead through all the chaos and all of the stuff. And at the end of the day, like in the height of emotion, which is what people are walking through right now, it is traumatic. It's, and people will say things like, you don't, they weren't your, you weren't related to them, or you didn't even know them. You can't grieve for that. And it's like, dude, shut up. Like people have a base, they're built for compassion and justice. Like those are base instincts that we have as human beings. And so when we see something, like when I watched it happen, I was bawling. And it's because, first of all, I've lost somebody in my life tragically. That was a surprise. So I know that grief, but I've also been in the room with people that have lost people, tragically. And I know that pain. And so we feel that as humans, we have a connection to that, right? And then there's the justice part that people have built into them as well, which is like people have this base instinct for justice needs to happen. Like something needs to change. No, that's kind of our go-to when we see something. We may not have all the information or all the facts. Like we're built and designed that way.
So are
When
we
people
good by default?
I think so. I don't like saying the Bible says that all have sinned and fallen short, right? So at theologically, good versus bad is not the issue. It's sin. We are all in a fallen state and need salvation. But I don't buy into the idea that everyone is just trash. And I can prove that biblically, because in the beginning of Genesis, when we have Cain and Abel, the story of the two brothers that Cain kills his brother Abel, God tells Cain before he does that, he says, repent. Sin is waiting at your door to master you. You can overcome it. God gives Cain a choice. Like Cain wasn't just automatically this evil person. Like he had a decision to make. And so I think when we just blanket
And
statement
he
that
made the
everybody
wrong
was evil,
decision, and he made the wrong decision.
he made the wrong decision. He gave into the fallen nature of humanity. But I think, and again, I don't think that the desire for mercy, justice, and compassion are good or evil. It's just knowing human nature. Like we have that in us. We're a communal people. When we see others suffering, especially when it's an unjust suffering,
Yeah.
the majority of the human condition wants to do something about that. They want to change that. That's why politicians weaponize those emotions and use them as a way to separate and divide people, because they're the most powerful human emotions. And so I think, but when you're at the height of those human emotions and you get told, whether it's correction or you're responding the wrong way, or, hey, that's not wise, in that height of emotion, 99.9% of people are not going to listen, because they're motivated and driven by this overwhelming sense of what it means to be human. And so to come in and be like, hey, dude, that's probably a really dumb post. It may be a really dumb post, but I think that timing is everything, right? And so as a pastor, I've had to learn, when I watch people go through stuff. I told my church during 2020, I got off Facebook and I told them, I was like, hey, in order to keep loving you, I need to not follow you on social media, because like I can't see all of this stuff.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
And it's like, I just have to disconnect from it, And
my acceptance has reached its wit's end.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, I have to pull away, because you know what? I'm going to have this tendency to want to not correct you for correction's sake, but I want to help you understand how to do this in a more constructive way. But what I had to learn is that in that moment, it's not the time. Like, and people have to grieve. It can feel like gaslighting when somebody is going through that and they're grieving, and you're like, hey, but there's a better way to grieve. It's like, hey, dude, like I'm walking through this right now. Let me walk through it. And you know what? Like next week or next month, we'll have a sit down conversation and evaluate, hey, maybe I could have processed that better, or maybe I could have done something differently. But right now, and here's why I say this, is because I don't want to lose my position in your life to where now you tune me out. Right? Like as a parent, this, right? Like
huge. That's exactly what I thought. I don't want to
like if your kids came to you and they decide they want to do something with their life that you completely disagree with, and you're just like, get out of my house, forget you, I reject you. It's like, they're never going to come to you again for anything. Like, I don't want that. I want you to be able to feel like you can come to me, even knowing that I don't agree necessarily with how you're handling this, but I don't want to lose my place in your life. And so I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to not tell you the truth, but I'm also going to do it tactfully and within the right timing. I don't know if that makes sense.
Dude, that's 100%. Let me, Fire Pit on Fridays at 9:16 are awesome. All right, fellow,
Oh, that's at 916. That's at the gym. We do Fire Pit Fridays.
A fellow gym member, Joaquin Munoz. Okay. See, I can read names. Okay, here we go. I'm already late.
We would prefer to live in artificial harmony and pretend like nothing's wrong because we're afraid of what they might tell us if we ask them for the truth. Silence isn't solving anything. And if they feel like you're ashamed to ask them what's happening on the inside of them, they will learn to adapt that shame for the rest of their life. And they will hide and they will never heal. Pursue your children and ask the hard questions. They may not answer you right away, but keep asking. Keep being present, keep showing up, keep pursuing. And if they share something with you, I can imagine that all the stories that the prodigal son must have had to tell his father, I just don't want to hear about it. I don't want to know. And you know what we do when we say that to our kids? I don't want to know. It means I reject that part of your life. Go find another place. And the world is waiting with open arms to receive that rejected place. How can we reject people in the house of God? This is a space of grace that you should be able to open up about everything that's going on in your life. Doesn't stop you from being a son. Pursue your children. Don't let your pride keep you from pursuing them. They need to know that you care about them. May we not be emotionally absent because we're so focused on working and providing and protecting that we miss the moments in between. They need to see that your heart is turned towards them. Some of us, we would prefer to live in artificial.
So as we go through whatever the planet's going through right now, this, you know, I don't know, great awakening. I'm experiencing that, right? Like with my own parents, right? And it's always been there. There's been conversations that are off limits, right? Like just like, hey, you're stupid. Basically, it's going to be, hey, you're stupid if you think that. And then recently, my dad told me he's, it's a letdown that him and my he felt like he let himself down by the way he raised my sister and I because of the beliefs we have. And my sister's a crazy devout, wildly devout Christian. And
oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yes. And I'm very close to her. I talk to my sister like almost every day. And but it's amazing, right? And there's subjects that are taboo, and they're not wild subjects like the anatomy of the vagina. It's just like, you know what I mean? It's stuff
Great
more
subject.
like it's more like, hey, where do you draw the line with schools? Like, the kid in Vermont, they gave the kid the COVID vaccine without the parents' consent last week, and it's like I can't have like that conversation's off limits,
Right.
And so when you say that, I'm just like, oh yeah, I need to remember like that for my own kids. And that's what you're saying with the people in your church. Like you have to make sure that you don't have a reaction that pushes them away so that they can't come to you.
Yeah. And I mean,
they come to you with something in person. Sorry to interrupt, Jared. You could handle it, but when you read it online, there's that gap. So you start spinning. There's room for a narrative. But when it's eye to eye with the person,
look, I'm a very opinionated person and I'm pretty blunt. I'm from New York. Like that's just how we are. But I've learned to let go of outrage. Like outrage is not a fruit of the spirit. It's not. And in our culture, outrage has become a sign that you really care about things and that, you're all in. And it's like, and so when somebody reacts a way that I don't agree with, or that I think is wrong, and maybe I'm even in a position to where I should bring correction, I don't react out of outrage. We're reacting to people's reactions. And when you react to people's reactions, chances are it just is going to inflame the entire situation. And you're not going to get the real of the person. You're going to get this defensive, I've got to fight for my way. I've got to fight for my point person. And now I can't have a conversation with you. And so even if you say something that's so offensive to me, like I'm not offended. Like
because you can pray. That's when
you
pray.
Just be a mature human being, like, and realize that sometimes people are going through stuff and people say stuff and react in different ways that, you have to let people process things out. It does not serve you well to not let them process it out. And so when somebody reacts, like these athletes, I really have a heart for the CrossFit Games athletes because, man, a lot of them, something I just kept thinking about like throughout this past week was like, what is the average age of these athletes? Like they are so young and they are thrust into the spotlight.
I keep forgetting how young they are. They don't even have like fully developed brains.
Dude,
Yeah, I know.
So young. When I was 20 years old, like and I mean no disrespect. Like I know some of these athletes, they're incredible human beings, but they got a lot of pressure. They're thrust into the spotlight. And now you're in a position to where you just experienced a traumatic event. You're trying to deal with your own grief and how to process that while also you're in a community of other athletes and everybody else is doing this stuff. And it's like, you don't know what's right. You don't know what's wrong. You don't know what to say. You kind of look around and it's like the amount of pressure on them to have to say something, to have to do something, to people
Can you imagine on Wednesday, and this is I guarantee you this is true. I have no proof of this, but I guarantee I'm willing to bet $1,000 this is true. On Wednesday, there's an athlete who's looking at their Instagram and their tear ducts turn on because one of their posts doesn't get enough likes. And they start feeling insecure.
Yeah.
That's your processing. That's where you're at.
Yeah.
And the next morning, one of your friends dies. The
Right.
gap in there, one
Dude.
of them has absolutely no relevance to anything,
Right. And
and
I know
yet
you're not saying that in a way of like speaking down at them. That's just the world they live in, right? Like they've got to get reach, they've got to post and they've got to get, certain sponsors and all that kind of stuff. It is a completely separate reality. I mean, a
I
lot
don't
of
know, maybe I am speaking down to them. Hold
I
hold
I, I wouldn't. I would
I
say
know
that
you're
like
not, but, like,
that's their paradigm.
um, l when you have a kid at home and they're like, "Hey, can you turn on the TV?" And you're like, "Hey, the electricity's out."
Mhm.
And the kid's like, "Well, turn it on." And you're like, "The electricity's out." And they can't fucking make they're like, "The remote's, like, there, how come you're not turning it on?" And they can't
Mhm.
make the connection. They haven't connected
Right.
that the elec and you see that shit as a parent.
Right.
Like, you're like, "Oh, shit, they haven't made this connection yet." And,
Mhm.
like, whatever you're saying to them. E It's just it's so absolutely unfathomable to me
Yeah.
to care about likes, even for other than unless you were playing a game. Like, my friends and I have this game where we go to a post, and we see who can make the as soon as a post goes up on a huge account, and who can
Yeah.
make the funniest post that gets the most
Mhm.
likes. But it's
Yeah.
just like, we're not wanting likes, like, for validation. It's like
Right.
we're gambling.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, let me put it to you this way though,
And
because I
so
think
it's so unfathomable to me, and so if you don't have the tools to process your
right.
likes, I mean, because there's nothing on the line to me. I don't like, relative to then Lazarus died.
But do you blame like, see, the way I would see it is like, do you blame them though? Because a lot of these I mean, if you're
What
talking
do you
about
mean by
20-year-olds,
blame? What do
right?
you
Like
mean by blame? What do
we're
you mean by
born
blame?
in 2000.
Yeah,
Like,
what do you mean by blame? I think that they are responsible for the repercussions of
but
I
what
think
I'm
they're
saying is
responsible.
that they don't know, like, I still grew up when we
Mhm.
didn't have internet, you know what I
Right,
mean? Like,
right,
I had,
right.
like, AIM, AOL dial-up, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, that was world but where a lot of these guys, this is the only world they know, and whether you like it or not, we do live in a world where likes, shares, follows, and Hiller would tell you this, like, it's the new currency. And it's not because I'm just trying to get clout. It's this is how you gain sponsors. This is how you gain and it's when I say attention, I'm not talking about I'm just attention hungry. It's that it's kind of like a form of currency now. You know what I mean? Like,
I think those people well, okay, and that's an important distinction, but I don't think that's where most people are. I think people are like, "Hey, I'm getting validation from that."
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I
Like,
think that that's probably true, but I try and I have to fight really hard to do this, but
yeah,
I do try to assume the best before my natural inclination is to assume the worst. I'm extremely cynical. I'm super critical. But even when you ask me like, is like, are humans evil or good? I do have to fight to believe the best about somebody. Now, if I've seen patterns of
I've always thought humans are good,
yeah, if
and
I've
my
seen
feeling is
patterns
that when I
of
see a
this,
fish
then it's
yeah,
one thing.
yeah,
But I think that at the base level, I think that people are just trying to process stuff right now. And I think
right,
that they're doing it with the tools they have. And this is what you've been talking about is like
yeah,
there's just not a lot of tools to how to deal with this outside
right,
of what we've seen, which is like
right,
when something tragic happens, you post about it because that's how you can communicate care. And even I have to wrestle with that. And I didn't grow up with social media, you know what I mean? But I have to, as a pastor, people expect me to make a public statement about everything, and
that's crazy.
I don't fall under that pressure, but sometimes I do feel like, man, like, and then there was just times where it's like,
I'm
like,
compassionate for their retardation, don't get me wrong. I'm, I'm compassionate, but I'm also, when they defend it like it's a reality, my acceptance for tolerance starts to wane. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, there
Yeah,
it's
and
just
I hear that, and I think
like
a
they
lot of people relate with that. I just man, I just really feel for them, like, I really do, and that's the pastor's heart
Yeah,
in me,
good,
right?
good,
Like, I
good, I'm glad you do,
I
you should,
care,
yeah, yeah,
I kept thinking about them. I mean, obviously, like, and whether it's controversial or not, like, I I have had to navigate organizations and people through really traumatic stuff, and I'm thinking about Dave, like, the amount of pressure from
So there's the thing. I can tolerate all this stuff. There was this post yesterday that one of the coaches wrote. It's like what I would have liked to have seen, and it lists out all these things.
yeah.
And then one of the things in there, and it said, and it would have been nice if Dave would have given us a choice.
Mm,
And it's like, and I just fucking want to go from 0 to nuclear, because not only did he give you a choice, he
right,
allowed you to fill out a survey, and you could have walked away at any time.
right,
And like, how about fuck you? You don't even deserve a fucking choice. It's not even your fucking sandbox.
right.
How about if
So
you know
so
what I
yeah,
mean? And so like, I'm
100%.
fine with how you're processing. And then you stepped over the edge, and I'm like,
Can I tell you from somebody who's
please.
been on the side of where Dave is at, right? Like
Right,
my job is to lead the organization. We have to keep moving in the midst of crazy stuff that happens, and it
right,
sucks.
right.
It's like, and this is why I believe in Dave, is because Dave, I posted this, I think when it happened, I believe that Dave is strong enough to lead, sensitive enough to listen, and secure enough to take the liability. Meaning
And
that even if he did things and everybody agreed, like at the end of the day, when you're in that position, you're in the hot seat. And people, so like if stuff happens in my church, I run a church of, like I said, there's over 1,000 people that are coming. We've got hundreds of leaders and volunteers. People do stupid stuff. And sometimes when they do stupid stuff, I get blamed for it. And I had nothing to do with it, but it happened under my watch. I don't get mad when people blame me for that. It is like, I'm the pastor. And I just know that at the end of the day, people are going to look to somebody, and they're going to have, I don't want to say blame, because I'm not trying to make it sound like it's wrong, but they're going to blame somebody. And that's what I signed up for that. Like as
right.
the leader, I signed up for that. And I know that Dave is secure enough in himself to, like, he knows. I'm not saying that it doesn't hurt and it's not frustrating, but Dave's a strong guy, and he's a good leader.
The thing is, this is not to poo-poo the crazy shit I'm sure you have to deal with, but your best friend moves to town, you invite him to your church, 3 months later he's banging someone's wife, fucking
Right.
it's chaos. Someone fucking died under this dude's
Right.
at this dude's event.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and not just some dude,
Right.
Lazarus Jukic. It's like, fuck, I mean, fuck, it's crazy. I'm not saying that crazy shit doesn't happen at your
No, but I've got some
but
stories that would make your head spin. But
yeah, but, and
I'm
you're
using that as an
listen to this,
example to
and
say
listen to
that
this
there's
too.
a
You're a house that draws sinners,
Mhm.
right? People come there for salvation.
Right.
There's gonna be some bad people in the fucking group,
Yeah,
and
that's
you
true.
need them, right? That
Yep.
like if you're a hospital, someone's gonna come in with like half their face blown off.
That's a great point. Yep.
And so it's like you test I guess each one of those is a test for the flock to stay the
Right.
course, right?
I just think that at the end of the day, I've learned to have grace
Yeah,
for the way that people process things. And I've learned also that sometimes it's just not the right time for me to address it,
right.
if I don't agree with it. Because again, like I said, it sometimes it does need to be addressed. Sometimes it does need to be corrected. But
Have you ever had
I
to kick
I,
anyone
I
out of your
personally
church?
like,
Have
huh?
you ever had to kick anyone out?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've had people try to split the church. We've had, it's, really, really rough stuff. And um, it's messy. People are messy. You know what I mean? You work
Yeah, yeah,
that's just the nature of people.
yeah.
Um, but I think again, like something that I've had to learn is, and I appreciated this about Hiller. I mean, I think that it was how many days that went by before he really made a video, like, and
He
I
was
think
paralyzed, he was paralyzed.
But I
Yeah,
think that's wisdom, and I
yeah, it was
respect that a
wisdom. Yep,
lot,
yep.
like,
Maybe
because
that's
I
a better way to
know how
say it. It's his
opinionated he is and
wisdom.
how deeply
Yeah,
he feels, and
yeah.
yeah, and so, but man, I just, yeah, my heart goes out to, it's just a sucky situation, man. It's terrible, you know?
Uh, will you fix Taylor's language as a Sentinel member?
I don't get offended by Taylor's language. I love Taylor.
Sunday morning church, NCC, 7:30 AM, Sevi, you're invited.
Let's go.
Is that your church?
No, NCC is NorCal Classic.
Oh.
You
Oh,
guys are gonna be there.
NorCal.
I got a couple
Oh,
my training partner who
oh,
does
you're going to
Sentinel
that event?
My training partner who does Sentinel, he's a master's athlete and he's watching right now. He's
Yeah.
competing at that. So we'll be there for sure.
I was supposed to drive my kids to the skate park 30 minutes ago.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's my fault. I want to keep you on for like another hour. But listen, I got to ask you one quick question real quick.
Please do.
It's easy. Wasn't Lazarus a dude in the Bible?
Lazarus was a guy in the Bible.
Is that who he's named after? Lazar Jukic?
I don't know. I mean, I know he's Serbian, so I don't know where the name if the name is common there. But Lazarus is the guy that Jesus raised from the dead. And
Oh,
that
can you tell me that story?
yeah, it's actually it's a really good way to end this conversation.
Okay.
So Lazarus, Jesus's friend, he
What
has
do you
two
mean
sisters.
they were friends? Like they were
They're buddies. Yeah, I
buddies.
was just Jesus's buddy. And the two women that were
How
his
fucking
siblings.
cool. How cool. Jesus is
Dude,
your friend.
so cool. Jesus is my friend.
All
So
right.
So his siblings, Mary and Martha, also two very famous people in the Bible. He gets sick and it's pretty serious. They tell Jesus, who's in a different city, hey, Lazarus is sick and he's about to die. And Jesus is like, I'm good. Like, I'm gonna chill here where I'm at. And he doesn't leave his city. And Lazarus dies because Jesus doesn't show up. Now, Jesus has been healing the sick. He's been curing all these diseases. And he waits. And Lazarus like dies because of it. And so eventually he gets word Lazarus is dead. So he decides, okay, I'm going to go into the city. So he starts making his way. And Martha, one of the sisters, runs to Jesus. And she's like, if you were here, my brother wouldn't have died. Like, what? Why didn't you show up? And Jesus has kind of already revealed that, hey, I'm going to do something crazy here. It's not going to end in death, but you're going to see me work a miracle. But she doesn't know that. And so he meets with her and she's blaming, if you weren't here, my brother wouldn't have died. And so Jesus starts talking to her. He's like, look, do you believe I am who I say I am? I'm the resurrection. She's like, I know you are. And on the last day, we're all going to resurrect. He said, I know. I need you to believe like I've got this. And so he assures her because she's anxious. She's freaking out. She's the overthinker. Then Mary comes. Mary is the other sister. She's a lot more emotional. She comes and she's weeping. She's crying. She's over the top. Jesus, if you hadn't been here, my brother would not have died. And the Bible says that Jesus looked at her and he groaned within himself and he wept. It's the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. Why would Jesus cry and weep with her if he already knew what he was going to do, right? And this is the brilliance of how Jesus works with people. Jesus gives assurance to the woman who's dealing with anxiousness and blame, and he comes alongside the woman who's grieving and he grieves with her. He doesn't even answer. He weeps with her. And then he makes his way over to the tomb. And the Bible says that it's been 4 days. And in the religious tradition, that means he's dead. He's not coming back. It's stinking already. They say, Jesus, it's going to stink if you open up the door. He says, open up the door. And he commands Lazarus come forth. Lazarus comes up from the dead. And that was his first resurrection. And
he said what to him?
Lazarus come forth. And so after 4 days being dead, Lazarus rises from the dead and he comes back. And it's so crazy because that story is such a great example of how, first of all, how God deals with grief, right? He deals with two different people very differently, and yet he provides the same resolution. But even in the midst of that, you know, what's so crazy about that story is that even after Jesus raises Lazarus from the dead, they still don't believe in him. They still reject him. They still say, you're not God. I mean, he literally brought somebody back from the dead and he couldn't do enough. You know, it wasn't enough for people. They just needed one more miracle. And I think that's Jesus, right? Like he's right here. He's like, man, I've done so much in your life. Look back at what's happened. And yeah, there may have been a lot of trauma, but like I've been there and there have been moments, you know, I've been calling you, and yet we reject him time and time again. We throw the door in his face, and he doesn't walk away. He doesn't get offended when we're blaming him. He doesn't try to correct us when we're weeping, and he doesn't reject us when we reject him. He's still here. His arms are open. And so that's my little altar call, you know, of like, hey, receive Jesus in your life because he's pursuing you.
Okay, I will. I'm trying. What about did Jesus say, let the dead bury the dead?
He did say that.
And what's the context of that?
It's the context where there's a guy who wants to follow Jesus.
Mhm.
He's the rich young ruler. But there's, in order for him to follow Jesus, he's going to have to sell everything he has. And that's not because to follow Jesus, you have to sell your stuff. It's that he was owned by his possessions. It's not that God doesn't care. God doesn't care if you have stuff. He cares if stuff has you. And so
Mhm.
this guy couldn't let go of his position, his power, his prominence. And so when Jesus says, hey, if you want to follow me, that's cool, but nothing can be more important than me in your life. So you got to get rid of this stuff. And he can't do it. And so then there's this whole kind of pattern of people that are wanting to follow Jesus, but, well, wait, no, I got to go bury my father first. I got to go take care of these things. And he says, hey, let the dead bury their dead. Those things are behind you. You need to start pursuing me. You need to follow me. And if you're always constantly looking back and second guessing and doubting, you can't follow me, because in order to follow me, you have to have faith enough to move forward. And so that's kind of what he's talking about.
The first time I interacted with God was crazy powerful, like biblical shit,
Mm.
like burning bush shit.
Wow. Were you tripping?
I was completely sober.
Oh, wow.
I was pursuing my own death through stillness to go inside and turn off.
Mm.
I read a book on how to find yourself, basically, and I was like, okay, I can do that. And I stayed perfectly still for days.
Mm.
And I interacted with what was like going through a burning sun.
Wow.
But it was like, it felt as real as anything.
Mm.
And the first thing I did after that was I got rid of everything I owned, because I knew everything, car, home, because I knew that my attachment to those things was causing, like, if a rock hit my windshield and I thought it was my windshield, the fidelity of my contact
Mm.
with God was affected.
Yeah.
And that's that story, the dead
Yeah.
versus
You don't want anything in the way.
No, at all. And what's
Yeah.
fascinating about that going and it was the best 2 years of my life. Absolutely fucking crazy. I mean, just what the spiritual world, or, the new age world, called the synchronicities, becoming amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even believe, it's like one synchronicity after another. It's like
Yeah.
Mr. Magoo.
Mm.
Nothing can get you.
Yeah.
There's no every worry, even before you worry, the worries come after the cures. You're like,
Yeah.
if the cure comes, then you're like, oh, I'd have been worried about that. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And what's wild about that is, now that I have kids, earlier when you said, I was like, how could anyone know God and then go against God?
Mhm.
And then the conversation went on, and of course, God gave me the answer to that question while we were having the conversation. He told me, you would go against me if I came for your children.
Wow.
And I felt my tear ducts turn on, and I quickly,
Mm.
stopped listening. But yeah,
Wow.
you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
had kids, and I would go against God for my
Mhm.
kids.
Yeah.
God forbid, please don't test me.
Right.
But,
Right.
you're right, even I
Well,
have
God loves your kids, man. He's
yeah.
not, that's not the kind of God we serve.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I asked that
100%. There's
when I
always
asked that
something.
question, I got
Mhm.
the answer.
Yep. There's
Like, "Hey,
always
don't
something.
don't think you're above it,
Yep.
dipshit," because I know, in my, like, 'cause they're my world, they're my most grandiose worldly possession, right?
Yeah.
They're my Mona Lisa. They're my, what did that guy painted on the ceiling?
Yeah. Michelangelo,
Yeah, like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're my
Yeah.
greatest.
Sistine Chapel. Yeah.
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
my
yeah.
Sistine
They're
Chapel.
your
Don't e
muse. Yeah.
don't even look at it. Don't breathe in here.
Yeah.
Don't do anything that would affect my crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy.
But dude, you're a great dad. Like,
Oh, thank
seriously.
you.
Like,
Oh, thank you.
I'm so inspired by the way you raise your kids, the way you
Thank
talk
you.
to them, the way you love them. And like coming from a guy who, I didn't have a dad, growing up, like I just am it's so cool to watch how invested you are in their lives. And yet at the same time, um, giving them the space to kind of figure it out. Yeah, they're lucky. They're lucky kids, man.
And I ask him that question, "Do you believe in God?" I mean, at night when we're in bed, it's
Yeah.
pretty funny hearing the different answers.
Yeah.
Um,
Kids
anyway,
are the
brother.
best, man. They'll just tell you. They'll
Oh,
just tell
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. Uh, what did what did our one of my said my one of my says I asked one of my son, "Ari, do you believe in God?" He goes, "God,
Yeah.
I hope there is a God." It's like, "Me too,
Dude,
buddy,
that's
me
the
too."
best. I love
Yeah.
that.
All right, Jared, love you, buddy. I would love to keep you on for another hour. I
Man, thank you so much for having me. I'm a nobody out here, but hey, when you're in town, we gotta hook up
Yeah.
and yeah, we gotta stay connected.
Great book. I'm really enjoying reading it. I appreciate you being patient with all the paradoxes and all the confusion I have around the subject in
Dude, I love it.
my own faith.
I
And
love it.
and let's stay in touch. I got to have you back on again. You're a great dude.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
Peace.
Have a good day. Jared Ellis. The book is How to Become a Prayer Warrior. I read the first 50 pages like in an hour last night. Great reading. I felt great reading it. I gotta go. Sorry, I'm fucking 30 minutes late. Love you guys. We're gonna do a CrossFit Games update show today. We have Kill Taylor tomorrow. We'll do a CrossFit Games update show tonight with John Young. Listen, for those of you like who are, you don't have to push back away from Christianity or the Bible. You don't have to. You can just drop that story. It's not like if you don't have a wall up against it, it doesn't get you. Do you know what I mean by that? Like you don't have to have it was a great moment in my life when I didn't have to do that. When I could appreciate it, it's not the COVID vaccine. You don't have to fight it off. It's cool. It's just out there. It's cool. It's good. It's good shit. It's fun. It's good people. It's loving. It's healthy, knowledgeable, wise people. Make your life. I don't want to scare you away, but being around those people will make your life better. All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.